welcome to Order 42. I am Rob, and today we are going to continue our conversation about the Godfather saga with Grindhead Jim. How's it going, sir?
It's going pretty well, man. How you doing?
All right. And the Eagle has landed. Hey, what's going on?
Eagle Ford, better
again,
than Eagle Chevy, depending upon who you talk to.
Now that we're at 1080, I really would appreciate just, every now and then if something goes funky, please let me know, because I from what I can see, everything looks great, but I want to
we start busting out into a Parliament song, that kind of funky, or
yes, that's exactly where I was going with it.
All right, let's check. I don't know how these things work, Rob. I'm out of the game, man.
Hey, no, it's all good. But we were just talking about setups, streaming setups, and stuff and things.
Yes.
And you were just saying that you like the idea of automating. Oh my gosh, is this how today's gonna go? Because
yes,
wow,
yes.
brain.
Yes.
But no, the automation of being able to come in and go blip blip blip, and then everything's ready to go. And that's what I was trying to do. And I'm not. Well, first I got to get the desk first. That's kind of the important part. But I don't know if you saw Wood's setup. Did you see his video that he put out on the Beat 'em Ups channel?
I have not seen that yet.
Because he basically goes in. He's got it set up now in his new house, which, hey, that's awesome for him.
Yes.
Goes into his and he's got this big. It looks like it's almost like supposed to be like a media room or theater room or whatever. Mm-hmm. But he's got it set up where one half of it is his YouTube set, and then one half is his streaming setup.
Right.
And what he does is he goes in and says, so and so, Alexa, so and so, I'm streaming, and everything, all the lighting changes and stuff. So he sits down and is able to stream, and then it's like, or so and so, I'm recording, and it all switches over to the YouTube set. And I'm like, oh, that is so cool. I would love to have something like that, but I don't have any automation like that right now.
Yeah, that kind of stuff I don't really delve into. Like I have Amazon's, Wayward Daughter. I have one of those, and I enjoy using it, but I haven't touched mine in like 2 or 3 years. I just don't have a need for it in a small space. But the setup that I originally built, which, spoilers, folks at home, this is not my setup. This is this is a different thing. But the room it was in, I had it set up to where I've got the background for like recording videos. So if you look at my old videos, you'll see like big, shelves with video games and books and all that stuff. And the original idea was going to be that I never got around to doing it because I couldn't get clearance from the apartments to do it, which is why I'll have to wait until I buy a house down here, which is part of why I'm here. I'm waiting to buy a house. I want to get like in hospital rooms where they have like the curtains that they can, like they're on a track.
Yes.
Like privacy curtains. I want to install that kind of track in a U form behind me. And I have these great big green screens, these like 10x9 green screens. And I want to get the 2 of them and just whoosh, make it super simple. And then they're totally out of the way. I have this Elgato one that pulls up behind me, which is great, but there's some limitations with it. It's just not wide enough. I'm a big dude. So I really wanted the idea of it just going shink, and then I've got a green screen if I want to use it. And whoop. They don't make those noises, by the way. I'll have to make it shink, whoop. It's the thing. But what I did do is I had
or like
all the
Hitchhiker's Guide.
Right.
Oh. The door's closed. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. But what I did do is I got some cheapo remote control lighting, which is basically a little Wi-Fi transmitter. And I put all of my lights, like these, I guess you'd call them box lights, and then different lighting in the room. So I have like lamps behind me, and I had like lamps in the front. So like what I did for lighting behind, I was going to do LED strips and decided against it. I just bought these two really, really bright desk lamps, but they were behind the monitors, so they like make this effervescent glow. Effervescent? I just had some Alka-Seltzer. Maybe that's why I'm thinking effervescent. It's one of those days, guys. I'm sorry. But I put all of them on different switches. And then for good measure, I even put like one switch on my living room lights. So when I was done, I'd be like, boop, 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 boop. And then I'd turn on the living room light and go out and hang out and whatever. And then I have macros, like little programs that I'd written on the computer. So if I'm on a stream, go click, click. And I could voice activate those if I wanted to. There's ways to do that. So I could be like, I could say, Grindzilla, streaming. Grant, I wouldn't say it like that. It'd be hard for it to understand.
Yeah.
Like, what'd you say? But you could do there's all kinds of ways you can do that. And because I like the idea of having a very versatile, very complex setup that the controls and the application is simple. I was telling you about how I had all of my consoles hooked up. It was all going into one HDMI switcher. The audio out went into the capture card for audio, then the video capture card, and I would just switch those with remote control too. So I could get really ridiculous with it, but the idea was to play any game at any time, just kind of go boop, and just be able to do it, and not have to be like, well, let me switch this, because that stuff gets annoying. And when you stream a lot, or when you're even just enjoying yourself playing for long periods of time, you just want to be able to have things at your beck and call. And in my living room setup, it was much of the same, where I have a Logitech Universal, and you can just click and it just switches everything up for me. And I'm sure you have something similar in your living room. Yeah. So you can just kind of switch all the stuff. And I kind of like that kind of stuff. I don't like having like 97 remotes. I like having like two.
Totally there with you. Yeah, I've got a Harmony remote that I need to update, but it's a Harmony remote that does that, where it's like watch TV, and they go bam, 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 turns on all the stuff it needs to do, puts it on the right input on the TV, and all that stuff. So I'm just ready to go. But it kind of reminds me of, I mean, of course, the dream is something like, and this is something that Bill Gates had in his house years and years and years ago, but it was, he had a bunch of digital picture frames on the wall, and now check this out. It's freaking cool. There were cameras that identified which person was coming into the room, and it put up their artwork or their preferred pictures on the wall and their preferred lighting and everything based on their face. This was years and years and years ago.
That's weird, dude.
It's kind of cool, though. I mean, now, I guess the fun thing was, like, if you both walk in the room together, what does it do? Right. Or does it just go error, you know? I mean, who knows? But I love, I mean, that whole idea of stuff like that is really, really cool. You know, that bleeding edge tech is really cool. But I remember that was something, I mean, years ago. See, I want the Total Recall wall, where the TV is just built into the wall. You know, and then you can just change it to Alaska or whatever. The rainforest.
Or like in Aliens, where she's like sitting in this like oasis, and then she switches off the wall and she's just in a room. Yeah. And you're like, no, because James Cameron loves his rear projection and things.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Did a lot of that in the Terminator, a little bit on Terminator 2, a little bit on Aliens, but a lot in Terminator, like a shitload. His budget was a lot lower than that movie looks like.
Yeah. And I just remember there were a lot of scenes like that I always, of course, you know, as you learn more about how movies are made, especially in that time period, and what the kind of the techniques they used, you can quickly identify those scenes now. But at the time, I was like, why does that look different? Why did they look like the color's really good, but then, you know, as the drop ship and Aliens is crashing, it looks kind of like it's faded. Why is that? What's going on there?
Projected.
Yeah, they're basically in front of a big movie screen, which is kind of cool, you know, when you think about it. It is, yeah. But anyway, well, you know, I just want to say, Bucho is here. What's going on, Bucho?
Bucho.
I just want to say again, I'm kind of want to start every show by thanking you for watching. You know, it's one of the things that it still amazes me that anybody. Octavius is here too. Holy crap!
Oh geez.
So yeah, it's just awesome to do this and hang out, and it's fun and things. So I appreciate it. But anyway, so Godfather.
Yes.
Where do you want to start? Because we kind of left off in a weird kind of way. What we did was we were talking about Godfather, and then we just went on tangents, and we just tangented till the end of the show, which is completely fine. That's what this show is.
I believe when last we left our heroes, I had just croaked.
Yes. Yeah. So he had just died.
Yeah. And we talked about the cool part of it, how the way in which it was shot was completely improv. He was supposed to just slump over in his chair. And what ended up happening is that the kid was just messing with Marlon. And so Marlon's just playing with him in the thing. And then he just improv'd his death like that, which was, I think it was brilliant. It was a smart choice. It was being in the moment. You know, it's good acting. I dug that, especially like when I found out after the fact. I'm like, oh, yeah. So I thought it was good to begin with, and then you find out that wasn't supposed to happen.
Well, and it's one of the things that I had briefly said on the last show about this was filmed in 60 days, and if you can look at the transformation of Marlon Brando from the first shot in the movie to the last shot in the movie, it feels, it's weird. It's not like pacing the movie feels long, at least to me. The movie flies. Yeah,
but it's not a wasted frame in the whole thing.
Yeah, but it's like the amount of time that it feels like, in the story, it's amazing what they were able to accomplish in 60 days. I mean...
Yeah, because if you think about... Okay, so not to be this guy again, but when we were doing the Game Changers movie...
we should always contextualize.
It helps.
Yeah.
Anytime we did a setup, it would take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour or more to do that, even if we were on the same location. Then when you add locations, you're looking at a couple hours minimum to move and set up and then get everything going. Now, think about all the different places that they had to do this. And at one point, they went over to freaking Sicily to shoot a sizable portion of the film, I might add. So they didn't just go over there and do like 2 shots. They did like a lot of stuff there in Sicily. When you just take that factor alone of how long it takes to get a production going anywhere, then you've moved it's like you did all of this. You did all your studio stuff, your location shots, and you went to Sicily as a location in 60 days? And you covered all this stuff and you had room to
in 1970.
Because the technology was a lot more unruly. They weren't carrying around cameras about this big. They're like, like these big cameras, like click, 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 like the film, and
And then just the lighting. Remember? I don't know if you were there when Leon was talking about, or no, not Leon. Chris, our gaffer, was talking about the old lighting and how it was like, you had to move the lights, you had to wait like 3 hours because if you touched it would burn your hand. And it's just like, it's amazing what they were able to accomplish in 60 days. Which is also like, when you hear these stories about Lucas, almost having a heart attack and his doctor saying you should never ever direct another movie. I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about the pressure that you must be under. It's crazy.
It really is. And it's like, well, and I've said before, like Coppola, part of the reason I think that I was hesitant to go back to Godfather was because I'd seen interviews with him on other stuff. The guy's a little full of himself.
Yeah.
But the more we talk about like what he's had to go through to make these films, I can kind of see why. Because on one hand, he's an artist, an auteur, if you will. So right there, you've got a little bit of ego. You have to. You gotta like the smell of your own brand. to be an artist of any kind. You have to.
Yes.
You have to be like, oh, that's awesome. You have to be that person on some level. You got to believe your own hype, or else it's never going to translate into your film, your live show, your stream, whatever. Like you have to have that on some level. So right there, boom, deck is stacked. Then you take the fact that he's been told for decades, "Oh, it's genius, you're good." Yeah. That is eventually going to seep in. Like there's a very few people I can think of that really are the best at what they do and have that shoved up their ass for decades, and they're still relatively humble. There's like a handful, and because I think all humans, especially creative-minded humans, we want validation. We want the attention. That's why we do what we do on some level. We're expressing ourselves. We want to be understood. So when not only are you understood and you're told you're valid, but you are the best at this form of expression for this time period, and you inspired me to do this, that, that's going to bleed over into... Yeah. So by the time when he does something like Dracula, where you're like, this is an indulgent piece of shit. There are aspects of that film I think are really, really, really good. But as an overall piece, I'm like, it's a little much, Francis. Little much. You could have pulled back a little bit.
I just feel like, as much as I love Keanu Reeves, I feel like he was he was horribly miscast.
Whoa.
It's just the
scene, Dracula.
The scene. In fact, I kind of have Keanu Bram Stoker's Dracula hair right now.
What's funny to me is you look at his performance in the newest Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
And it's almost more appropriate for that Dracula film than his performance. Yeah, it's weird because he gave weight to a character that did not have weight before.
Those animals. It's so funny. It's so funny. What?
Whoa. Those are animals.
Well, that's
Ted.
the way he says
I'm
it.
Ted. I meant Bill.
That's the way. It's the way he delivers. It's the scene where okay. Full disclosure, I love that movie. I've always loved it. But
yeah, I enjoy it. But yeah, it's one of those movies that if you watch it in the wrong mood, it'll take you out of it pretty quick. Yeah. I think some of the casting, like Winona Ryder, like fuck off. Like no, I don't like her in much of anything. Not the only film I kind of liked her in was Alien Resurrection, which is weird to say. Like I kind of liked her in that, and obviously in Beetlejuice she worked out just fine. Everything else, I'm like, well, she was an interesting choice as Spock's mom.
Yeah.
It was interesting. But then I'm like, Spock's mom is a shoplifter?
She's been great in Stranger Things.
Okay. All right. I'll give you that. I guess what she's most known for, a lot of her early career was kind of like...
Oh, yeah. No, I'm there with you. But
and then,
I liked her naive kind of performance. You know, I kind of liked that part of it.
But what's interesting about that, you like her naive performance in Dracula, but then you got another naive actor in Keanu Reeves, and it's like, that doesn't work, Bill. You know, it's because it's the same thing, right? So when he gets cast in Matrix years later, everyone's like, this will never work. And he's like, I am the one, you know, and he didn't do it like that. Like there was a few pieces of it in the beginning, but it worked because he was going into this world, and it was like, whoa, like it really was. There were many whoa-worthy moments. Yeah. And then he kind of, he got to
froze for a second.
Got to liking the smell of his own brand and all that shit, and it worked out fine. Yeah, I know. You froze. You froze. I froze. Everybody's frozen. You're frozen. Shit.
But yeah, I don't know. Coppola is one of those where I feel like, well, and that's kind of, it's going to be interesting to see that going in the future. Did you freeze again?
I switched up my internet connection a little bit.
Because your video's frozen.
I'm going to try to.
On my end.
Okay, hang on.
For a second.
Hang on.
There you go.
It'd be better now.
All right.
It will get better. This will improve.
And the whole idea of this movie coming out with Oscar Isaac playing Coppola and Jake Gyllenhaal playing Robert Evans, the producer guy, who apparently they really butted heads with during The Godfather. I'm interested to hear more about that kind of story, and I actually, this is one of those things. I'm a movie dork, okay? That's just who I am. I have an article saved. I haven't read it yet, but it's basically one of Robert Evans' last interviews, and he basically dishes out a bunch of interesting behind-the-scenes stuff with fights and all that kind of stuff. It makes me wonder if that's what this movie's based on, is some of these talks with Robert Evans. In fact,
we'll see.
He's one of those guys, as a special features kind of guy, you may not recognize the name, but I almost guarantee you'd recognize him because he's very distinct looking. He's one of those guys he's the big time producer, and he's got the big sunglasses. You know what I mean? The really 70s. You know, all the way up until the day he died, he was kind of that dude. You know, or like what is it? John Peters? Is that his name?
Oh God!
You know what I'm talking about, right? Where he's
unfortunately, yes.
Unbelievable stories about that guy.
I have. I don't know if you have, but I have the Death of Superman Lives documentary.
Yes.
Do you have that? Yeah. If just him in that, you're like,
yeah.
Like, I'd heard Kevin Smith's tell of this in his spoken word, and then you see this guy talk about it, and you're like, Kevin was dead on. Like, that's really what this guy thinks.
Oh yeah.
And he's trying to downplay it, but I'm like, no, you were that guy in the late 90s. You thought your shit didn't stink, bro. Like, it's okay. Like, we all do that. You know, and they're talking about
all the you know why a spider? Because it's the most dangerous animal in the insect kingdom. And then the polar bear. Yeah.
Oh, so for the uninitiated, like, John Peters is like, he was a hack.
He was a hairdresser.
He was a hairdresser. Yeah, and I think that he overcompensated for that by telling stories and flexing a lot, and it showed us in this documentary in particular, which talks about the Tim Burton project to do Superman Lives. And when you hear what they were going to do, just in like a little blurb, you're like, ugh, I don't know if that would have worked. I'm glad they pulled the plug. Then you get into what they were actually trying to do and accomplish, and you see the design work, and you see where Tim's brain was going with it. And you're like, oh, that would have been at least a really interesting take, and it would have been very valid. Yeah. Like, by the end of that, I'm like, man, I wish he would have gotten to do it, because I
even if it was
Nicolas Cage had a good idea with how to take the character.
Yeah, even if it was complete trash,
Elseworlds,
it would have been one of those things where you look back and you go, yeah, but look at. I mean, it would have been awesome. It would have been awesome to see that. I mean, the glowing. And
what we got instead,
the Nicolas Cage suit, and I mean, it was just, Nicolas Cage #1 is like
interesting choice.
Yeah, it would have been amazing.
That. But what we got instead was Wild Wild West.
Yeah,
which is a complete throwaway movie
with a giant spider.
Excuse me, that's a Thanagarian snare beast. I thank you very much.
Well, yeah. So
he got his spider. Yeah.
I feel like we got to bring it back to Godfather a little bit.
A little bit.
But so yeah, that last portion of the movie is kind of a race to the finish. You know, you got the funeral. Really is. You've got Abe Vigoda coming in, you know, trying to set the thing up. And of course, his dad had just told him right before he died that whoever comes to you with it's going to be
right. Whoever comes to you for this meeting is your traitor. And even though he says that and they set that up, the moment that they all just kind of go, yeah, Abe, we're not going. And you're going to come with us right now. And he's like, and he realizes, and you see like the realization.
Yeah.
it's kind of like the end of every Bourne movie and every Ocean's movie. Like that was where that little twist was born. Like the idea of, even though you know what's happening, you know what to expect, there's still this little tiny, like, this little flavor they drop in, like that last little jalapeno pepper where you're like, oh yeah. And then, you know, yeah, that's the funeral. So I think I was just about to jump ahead to a similar scene in a later film. I'm going to shut up about that. Because they bleed together for me, because they're both brilliant. But no, just the look on his face, like how he just really just let him know it wasn't personal.
Yeah.
It was just business. Like, he's basically trying to say, like, I love all of you here, but I have to do what I have to do. I hope you understand. Like, and he's like, we understand. It's just business for us too. Now get in the car.
Yeah.
To your death. You know, you're like,
and I find it interesting that almost every person that is against the family,
yeah,
you see their deaths in horrific fashion, but you don't see Abe Vigoda go out. And I feel like, in a weird kind of way, it was like, we respect this character, and we respect what he was trying to do. So we're not going to show his demise, which is kind of
right. Like,
it's weird. It's almost like an honor thing.
Yeah, because because if he was going to do what he was trying to accomplish, he was doing it in the classiest way that he could do it.
Right. Out
of respect. So that respect came right back to him in the way that he met his end. I would, you know, for all we know, they just gave him a lot of sleeping pills and a bottle of whiskey and said, well, we'll watch you. You know, and then, you know, 8 hours later, they hear him shit himself for the last time. They go, well, that's Abe. He's gone. See you. We'll see you, and look who's talking.
Yeah.
You know.
Or Barney Miller.
Took my candy. What?
Barney Miller.
He was in Barney Miller, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that show in forever.
That's where I knew him from. So when I see him show up in Godfather, I'm like, what's Fish doing here? You know? But he was great. He was great in it.
Yeah. Very much so.
But it's weird how, like for you, your first time watching it,
yeah,
you see all of the pieces, and I love that Bucho said earlier that I have the Godfather score playing in, as a bed for this, because that's how I roll. And then Uncle Fish, yeah, but
good old Uncle Fish.
But for you, the first time watching it, how was that when the five families, they're all taken out? Tatalia's taken out, Barzini's taken out. Were you just like...
I was like, that brilliant motherfucker.
It was...
yeah, because it was just like... It just spoke to the fact that, like... It's kind of like... I kind of regard Vito as a... like an armored vehicle. Like a Humvee, where it's not a tank, but it has a lot of the power and the bulk of a tank, and it can still move and swerve as needed. Whereas his son is a goddamn Lamborghini. Sleek, slick.
Well, I was thinking speedy. Of like a in those terms, it's almost like he's like an Apache, you know, almost surgical. Yeah. Right. I mean, I just loved it. And I remember the first time I was watching it, I'm sitting there with my jaw open. He took them all out at the same time? Right. Oh! Yeah.
Because as soon as you see the first one go, you're like, well, okay, we're doing this now. That's what I said. I said, oh, we're doing this now. Okay.
The pacing. And that's all intercut with the baptism of him becoming a Godfather.
Yes. Yes.
It's so good.
Yes. It's perfect.
It's so good.
Like it's such a powerful ending. Like when I was saying earlier, like I'm confusing with another thing. It's because I thought the baptism happened in Godfather 2. That's how powerful it is. It almost feels like the opening for another film, which it technically kind of is.
Well, it starts the confirmation, right?
Right.
Godfather 2, or at least, yeah. We'll
Yeah.
get to that. But yeah.
But yeah, that's a hell of a way to end the film. And I said this last time we spoke, I believe, but I love the fact that the title, The Godfather, really refers to Mikey.
Yeah.
In reality, because at the end of the film, he is the Godfather. I mean, granted, there's two of them, but it's like it's so cool. It's like if you look at like the family as like an institution, like a band. You know, well, we were talking about Van Halen before we came on. It's like, you know, Roth and Hagar, and I much prefer Hagar to Roth. So Roth did some great stuff, but Hagar comes in and takes out the five families. I might be getting my legends confused here, but it's just. It was so well realized. They could have made it. They could have done it really cheaply. It could have been a janky ending. It could have been rushed, but it was just the pacing was right. The cutting was perfect. It said what it needed to say, and in the way that it was quickly paced and edited, for me, it spoke to the style of Godfather that Mikey is to be. Because I would argue throughout the entire rest of the series, he still has that. Maybe because he's methodical and precise and only strikes when he has to.
Yeah.
And if he has to, he doesn't waste any time.
Yeah, and with surgical precision, and it's it's gorgeous. I mean, and it's one of those things where sometimes you. Like, just me saying that, the whole thing about it's weird how, at least for me, I'm watching a movie and I get it. I get all the stuff. But when somebody says something like that, where he becomes the Godfather for the first time, all that stuff, and it's like when you think about that, it's like, man, this is really genius. What they were able to do.
Excellent storytelling. Yep.
It's just it's so beautiful. I mean, and why the Godfather, or at least Godfather 1 and 2, are highly regarded as some of the best movies in
this goes to an argument that I make a lot, which is I prefer film as a non-linear form of storytelling to a book, which can be non-linear. It's really hard to pull off. So like Godfather is a perfect example. Fight Club is a perfect example, where the ending of each of those films are not as effective in print form, for the simple fact that they have to give you so much more information to pull off the storytelling that some of the cool, like, you don't have that, or at least as much. Because like Fight Club, from the beginning that they're the same person, which is interesting and a cool character study. But when you put that in film form where you don't know, and at the end it was like, we have lost cabin pressure, and you're like, oh shit, and then the movie takes this whole other turn, and the whole ending of that third act is just so good, and everything makes sense and all that stuff. And the ending of Godfather is the same, where because they're able to deny you certain pieces of information, and then just give you this interwoven, just perfect web of story. Someone will be like, the book's better than the movie. I'm like, not always, bro. Not always.
Yeah.
And people forget a lot. This was based on a novel that he had written, Mario Puzo. And I have no desire to read the book. None.
Yeah, I hear the book is meandering and...
It's Mario Puzo. Come on.
Well, yeah.
Well, here's my whole thing is this. If you look at The Godfather and the first Superman movie, and you bear in mind that Mario Puzo was the original source material for it, Superman illustrates in a big way why, if you don't get that motherfucker under control, it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. All right, Can we leave Smallville now? Can we please? Can we do something, please? Like I'm dying over here. Like I know who Clark Kent is, dude. All right, he's been around at this point for over 50 years. Can we just, where Coppola really dug into the material and found a way to chop. And Donner did the best he could with Superman, but it's clear that the way the script was written it was meant to be like a 3-hour epic, which is fine, but they didn't have that kind of real estate with that film. They're like, well, we need to keep us 2 hours ish, 2.5 maybe, and they cut it down pretty heavily as well. But what they cut down was all the cool stuff, and then we're stuck in this freaking cornfield for like a third of the movie. I'm like, I don't care about him as a child. Like, that's cool. Naked boy with his ding dong hanging out, lifts up a truck. That's cool. You could fast forward to him in high school, be like, I don't want this, and then go to Metropolis, and I'll get the story. I don't need to like dwell on this crap. But
well, for me, that was. I'm trying to think back, like as a kid.
Yeah, well, as a kid, right?
For me, that was my real introduction to Superman.
Right.
So in a way, it probably worked better for me. But I'm wondering, it's kind of like one of those things. It's like, do we really need to see another Spider-Man origin story? Do we really need to start there again? Do we need to see Uncle Ben bite it every time? Seriously?
Peter!
Yeah.
Peter! Yeah.
Oh, Peter.
You might have caught me saying that on set a few times instead of, oh, Peter. Yeah. I would do that a few times. Like, anytime I was upset, I'm like, Peter! no one caught it that I know of. I was totally channeling Cliff Robertson as Uncle Ben, which was a good but curious choice for me. I always saw Uncle Ben, he's kind of a portly dude. Kind of a, I don't know.
I'm trying to think.
I just always...
Like, okay, let's be honest. I love Tom Holland. I love that new Spider-Man. What they're doing with it, the chances they're taking. I love it. But Marissa Tomei as May, really?
I understand.
I don't think Aunt May should be hot.
I get where you're coming from, and I'm on that train. However, we had our perfect Aunt May in the Raimi trilogy.
Right.
That was the best Aunt May that could ever be. And I think Marvel understood that. And they kind of said, well, do we just find another old lady?
Let's make her hot.
Well, let's be realistic here.
Yeah.
If you think about it, because at the time that Spider-Man was created, it was not uncommon for an aunt to be elderly. It really wasn't that uncommon because of the way people had kids later in life. In setting things in modern day, that's very unlikely in most family situations of this century.
Right.
So it made more sense thematically, and gave you a lot more room storytelling wise for her to be, in her late 30s, early 40s.
Right.
So.
No, I'm fine with it. It's weird to me. I don't know why. I guess it's just because I've always thought of her as an old lady,
Right.
But
and I guess the other thing is because they are doing this expanding universe, they're doing things in real time and so forth. You might have a Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter situation where your actor is too old to carry on. So what are you supposed to do then? Take Marissa Tomei and like put her in old person makeup, which would be interesting, you could have all this really weird talk about how like, man, I bet your aunt used to be hot, man. And then that would be creepy, wouldn't it? So there's no perfect solution here. So we've had the Aunt Mays. I think Sally Fields was a horrible choice for Aunt May. Horrible. Awful.
Yeah. Well, she didn't really bring much to the character.
Well, they didn't give her much to work with. And,
right.
And the fact of the matter is that it's not that she's not a really fine actor. She is. She's an amazing actor. But for that role, the vibe she had to have for it to pull off, it wasn't there. Her age aside, Marissa Tomei is 100% that doddering aunt. That doting, like, I'm in your stuff, taking care. So in that sense, she's almost a better May than the first one. Because the first one just left him alone.
Right.
Even though it's like, I love you and this and that and Ben and blah, 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 was good. But like in the original comic in Amazing Fantasy 15, you get this feel that although they trust him to live his life and do his thing, they're always like in his grill, making sure he's taken care of and making sure he's, are you dressing warmly and all this stuff. I'm not sure why they sound like Kermit the Frog, but are you dressing warmly? She's cold out there.
Yeah.
But so I think as a character, Marissa Tomei tends to be more true to Aunt May. And yes, it is a reimagining. And yeah, he doesn't have like an armor-based suit in the comics, which bothers me a little bit. But it explains away a lot of stuff that you would have to. It wouldn't be super feasible. If you got this guy who's a poor guy from Queens, he's not going to have access to make some of the things that he eventually made. So having access to that level of tech, putting him where he is in the universe, and where he is in the pantheon of the Avengers and so forth, because the Avengers came first in this case, it makes more sense to do it the way they're doing it within the confines of it. And for all the different versions of Spider-Man we've seen over the years, even in the comics, it's the one that remains true to what I love about Spider-Man, but does take it in a different direction. So I'm on board 100%. And I hope that Tom Holland never stops playing, because I want to see him grow well into adulthood and still have to wrestle with being Spider-Man. And I've heard and I've read, there's rumors, some founded and unfounded, that what they're doing in essence is a live-action Spider-Verse for the third one. If they pull that off with like Toby in there and a couple other people, like, I am fucking down, just because that gives you that much more to work with. Then you can do a spin-off Miles Morales film. Sony can have their Spider-Man that they can do whatever they want with over here. And we get to keep Toby, Did I say Toby? I meant Tom. Toby can go make another movie. I don't even know what he's doing now, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't either. But no, you're at least that's the thought right now, right? Because we've got Jamie Foxx has been confirmed to be Electro in Spider-Man 3, which is,
like I said on Twitter, as long as he has no creative control on the character, I'm okay with it. If you look at the behind the scenes on that film, he like totally changed. Why don't we have him do this? Why don't we have him do that? And no, that's not Electro. Not even the new version of Electro was like that.
Yeah. I
liked it when Electro was nothing more than a freaking bank robber that happened to get some powers. He's a thug. That just happens to like, well, now I'm going to rob banks with electricity, Well,
what would be interesting is, I mean, who knows what their plans are, but I feel like from the big picture wise, Marvel's trying to go, okay, we had the movie with 7,500 different heroes in it. We did that. We can't just do that over and over. We have to do something different. Bringing in past actors from other iterations of their stories is huge. Now, what's weird is I feel like it's strange for DC to have started that, kind of. DC really kind of started doing that stuff. And I feel like DC never really positioned themselves to have that, okay, we got this big win. They're basically starting their huge push on the biggest thing that they could do. It's kind of like, well, there's 5 different vacations I can take. I'm going to take the one that's highest rated and the most expensive and the best thing ever. Right. So that what I'm doing is I'm experiencing the best it'll ever be, and everything after that will be lesser. And I'm like,
right.
It's like, why would you start with that?
Right. And I feel like this idea that there's an idea that's been thrown around a lot. I know Michael Keaton's coming back in some form as an older Batman. I think really my perfect world, like offshoot movie that would work Put Michael Keaton as Batman in a Batman Beyond film.
Yes.
That's perfect.
Yes.
You get this. You can just explore this whole other thing, and you can play with the character. Keaton would have a blast with it because he doesn't have to wear the stupid suit anymore. And he can just be, you can do all that cool stuff, and he gets to do the smile and the wink and the nod and all that stuff. And then you get some young buck like Robert Pattinson would have been perfect for that. I'm saying he would have worked. He's the right age. But alas, we're gonna get him as angsty punk rock. Look at me, which is fine. Hopefully that works. Hopefully, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, like a month ago. But Godfather, though, is a great film. You know.
Well, hey, before we get back into the Godfather, we've got some chatty McChatty stuff over here.
McChatty with cheese, yes.
Yeah. So Gamer Tamer's here. How's it going? Sorry I didn't say hi, but we were in the middle of a thought
thing.
But he said the McDonald's commercial that you just saw advertising spicy McNuggets was hilarious. I don't know what you're talking about. And that's probably because Twitch put something on there that I don't.
Right. When you come into a channel you're not subscribed to, there's a pre-roll ad. And in this case, it was probably Spicy McNuggets.
Well, there you go. But I hope you, thank you for watching it. Because, I mean, of course, watching the ads helps me, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if it does or not.
You get a cut of that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and then, but he said the thoughts on Scarlett Johansson being Wendy's mom in the new Addams Family.
You mean Wednesday?
Oh, he put Wendy.
Yeah.
But Wednesdays.
So I think, Scarlett Johansson as Morticia, I could see that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you just close your eyes and imagine with long black hair, totally pull it off.
Heck yeah. And she could play almost, because like Morticia's supposed to be sort of almost like, you know, this is just how I always think of her, the goth girl grown up to be a mom, but never grew out of being a goth.
Yeah, she's a mega fuckable, badass goth bitch. And that's every iteration of Morticia has been like, wow, that is a woman, you know, and a hubba hubba. I'm definitely down with that. You know, you put ScarJo in anything tight, and I'm going to be okay with it.
Yeah,
because I get my eye candy, but she's a hell of an actor too.
Yeah,
I haven't seen her in anything that I didn't like her in. Like, she's a likable, affable actor.
Have you seen Marriage Story?
Serious chops. No, I haven't.
It's on Prime or Amazon.
Yeah,
isn't it on Amazon Prime? But I think it is. That is a gut punch of a movie. But it's like you're sitting there and you're going, okay, I'm watching some of the best acting in the last 5 years. Between her and Adam Driver, it's amazing.
That's one I want to watch, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting for when I have less stress. So it's less likely to be like,
it's a rough one, especially if you've ever gone through a divorce.
I've been through 2 of them.
So yeah.
So, right.
But it's amazing.
Did you ever see a Spike Jonze film called Her?
Yes.
Like, she's just a voice in that, and that's an amazing performance.
Yeah.
You know, that movie does not get enough credit.
It's a good one.
It's a film that manages to feel vast and claustrophobic at the same time, hopeful and hopeless at the same time. It's really, really good.
Of course, I think Spike Jonze is. Man, that guy has done some amazing stuff. But
like, I liked the concept of the film, which is why I'm curious about this. Then I found out what Spike Jonze did it, and I was like, "Oh, brother, I'm in." Yeah, and it was that, folks. If you haven't seen that movie, I know it's on either Netflix or Prime. I'm not going to tell you the concept. Just watch it. It's really good, because you, on the outset, you're going to be like, "Oh," and then you're going to be like, "Oh," and you're like, "Oh." And
all of those ahs. All of them.
Yes.
All the ahs.
Yes.
But he said, Bucho said earlier, he said, Into the Spider-Verse 2 is my most anticipated superhero movie. And then Gamer Tamer said the first one was so good but so underrated. But it was nominated for an Academy Award, wasn't it? I don't think that's underrated. Into the Spider-Verse is amazing.
Everyone that I knew or know that had even a passing interest in superheroes at all or animation wouldn't shut up about that movie. It took me a long. I waited to see it until it came out on Netflix. I wasn't going to take the plunge because I was worried I wouldn't like it as a Spider-Man fan. Because I'd heard that it goes like in these multiverse and some crazy places, and it deals with characters I'm not super familiar with. Yeah. By the end of that film, I was bawling, crying. I was a Miles Morales fanboy. You know, like I'm like they did such a great job of introducing but not beating you over the head with origins of people. Like it tells you just enough of what it needs to tell you. You get a little bit of everything. It reintroduces Peter Parker as the flawed human that he is. You know, it's so good. Good movie. It's good. I love it. I'm gonna watch it later today.
When I saw the trailer for it, I was like, "This is gonna be one of those blah 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 in your face." Yeah. That, you know, since I'm now in my 40s.
Yes.
Sometimes those hurt my head a little bit. I'm like, is this gonna be like a Skrillex video or something? Is it gonna be really like super crazy? Yeah. Right. That's what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be an assault on the senses. And in a way it was, but in the best way possible. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was literally a comic book come to life. It was so beautiful. I love it. It's so good. So yeah, I can't really say that was an underrated movie. I think anybody who's a fan of movies appreciates what they did in that one. I mean, it's just crazy. Crazy good. And then he said Robert Pattinson is still on the fence for me as a good Batman.
Same. We've talked about this where he has the potential. It looks like he's going in the right direction, but it could fly off the rails. All it's going to take is one bad scene for me, and I'm going to be like, nah. I'm
on the Robert Pattinson bandwagon after seeing some of his movies on Netflix and Amazon, seeing his performances. The guy's got the potential. So it's not for a lack of ability. I think he looks good as Batman. Right. What's going to be interesting is how they play with the whole Bruce Wayne side of it, because to me that's how you really, because I love the Christian Bale Batman, Nolan Batman stuff. I love it. But he's not the best Bruce Wayne.
No,
he doesn't really make as much of an impact as Bruce Wayne as in my opinion, as he should, because
he's trying to establish Bruce Wayne as the mask, whereas Batman is the real person.
Right.
And he does a good job of that, but he doesn't make that disguise very convincing ever. Yeah. Ever. Some of his character interactions are great, and some are like, it's like when in Batman Begins, when he's in the restaurant and he goes, "Well, I'm buying it." You know, it's too over the top. It's supposed to be. It's a performance within a performance,
right?
But I'm like,
I kind of like that. I was talking about in the later ones, really.
Oh yeah,
it just feels like Bruce Wayne is just gone.
Yeah, he's just Batman with or without the suit. Yeah. You know. But thank goodness he isn't like the whole time either, because his death metal voice was getting pretty bad at that point. He's like, it was good. Like when he lost the voice for me was at the end of Dark Knight, The Dark Knight. When he's like, "This city," and he has to take a breath, "just showed you that it's good." And I'm like, oh man, like that was the line delivery you went with, dude. Like you could have done the whole sentence without going.
It's weird though, like because
I don't know.
I have a hard time, even though I think that last. It's not really the last third. It's kind of the last segment of the Dark Knight. It's so messy.
Yeah.
It just feels pace-wise, it feels messy, but man, I love the Joker so much. It's so good.
I was watching
Would you like
YouTube
to know
video.
Which of them are cowards? I love his performance is so good.
Damn it, drugs.
Yeah.
Damn it, drugs. Because he,
I just love that.
You could make the argument that performance killed him.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't come out of the psychosis, and he was trying really hard to sleep. He was having difficulty. He was taking all the wrong drugs, and that was it.
It really is a fascinating, especially
Like,
when you know who Heath Ledger is. If you know who Heath Ledger is, and you've seen A Knight's Tale, and you've seen 10 Things I Hate About You, it doesn't seem like it's the same guy. It
isn't. He transformed.
He's so.
And then when they announced Joaquin Phoenix was going to play the Joker in a standalone film, first I'm like, yes, and then I'm like, no, because I don't want him to die too. He's an amazing actor, and he pulled it off. Because I think that Phoenix is this kind of chameleon of an actor that very few can pull off. Like, he can do anything and have it work, and to hopefully bring this back, if they were ever to attempt to remake The Godfather, him as Mikey.
Joaquin
Think
Phoenix?
about that for a second. Yeah, no, yeah. Think about that for a second. Think of him with the slick back hair. Think of the gravitas that he can bring to a role, and how he can bring a little bit of manic energy to it as well, and how good he is at expressing feelings of love and betrayal. And come on, man, like, he could really pull it off.
The thing that I think that the actor, if you were going to redo Godfather today,
right,
you would need an actor who can play, because I think that's the thing about Al Pacino in the Godfather, is when you first see him, he looks more innocent, more childlike, more.
Okay, look at the beginning of The Joker. How naive and hopeful Joaquin Phoenix is.
I don't know. I guess it's because Joaquin Phoenix looks too crazy to me. He always looks too crazy.
I mean, okay, Walk the Line. In the beginning of Walk the Line, young Johnny Cash. I'll keep throwing examples at you.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I wonder if there's somebody who's got that, because I mean, Al Pacino was an unknown at the time.
Sure. So you would want the same thing where you start with the unknowns again.
In a way,
so you want to go like Marvel Universe with. I could see that.
Because I feel like if you did that, I don't know. That's the thing that's so. I don't know. The thing that's so great about watching. The problem with watching The Godfather later in life is you have a view of who Al Pacino is already.
Right.
So you almost know where he could go.
Yeah. I get you there.
But it's one of those things where, imagine being in, I don't know. It's really interesting for me to just think about what it would have been like to see that movie for the first time back then. You don't know who these people are. You know who James Caan is. You know who you've probably seen Robert Duvall in some things. But he's not like a. I don't think at the time he was sort of like a household name. Marlon Brando.
He was a character actor at that point.
Right. Marlon Brando, of course, you know who he is. But pretty much everybody else are the kind of like I think I've seen him before, but But Marlon Brando was really the biggest star.
So let's say that we're recasting a remake of The Godfather with relative unknowns, so we can't really cast all those characters. But if you stick with the formula of getting a well-made actor for Vito, who do you get for Vito in 2020?
Who would I get for Vito? My God.
Mm-hmm. And
what
bear
an
in mind,
impossible task.
I mean, it isn't, because bear in mind, you don't have to have any worry about their appearance, because fat suits are really easy to do. Look at what they did with in that the Batman trailer with what's
Colin
his face?
Farrell.
Yeah, so that was Idris Elba's Vito. I could see it. But I think they'd have a hard time convincing me he's from Sicily. Although it doesn't have to be
if you've
a
seen
True Romance. Family. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, like, what if that does? I know Bucho's being a troll and being funny, but let's look at that for a second. Think about that, because a lot of the mafia type stuff is kind of not dead, but there's just not as much of that activity in today's world. So, for this to work in a modern thing, why couldn't you set it in like an African country where there are warlords and mafioso types and all this, and then they come over to America? And that's how they, you know what I mean? Like you could totally. There's some cool ways you could reinterpret. You don't even have to call it The Godfather, but you could tell the same story with a different framework and backdrop. It'd be kind of cool. You're not gonna get me with this one, Bucho. I'm gonna explore this idea.
I'm still racking my brain trying to figure it out. I was actually, before you said Colin Farrell, I was thinking Colin Farrell
As the Godfather. I could see that.
But then I'm trying to think of like top rated actors like in their 40s is what I'm trying to go with. Because that way you can I don't know, that's just what I was trying to think of.
Here's a choice that's going to be left field. But because I know he could pull it off. But most people were like, really? That him? Liam Neeson. Think about...
Ooh, an Irish...
Yeah. Think about Darkman. Think about even his turn as Qui-Gon Jinn, like how he has that kind of fatherly thing going on. And then, of course, you can go full-on badass with, like, you got a special set of skills, like all that stuff. You can do all that shit. Schindler's List, like the list goes the list goes on. But he's got the chops. He'd be the right age. He's a little older, but he could totally pull it off.
I don't doubt that at all.
I think doing an Irish fan would be really cool, and then set it in the 80s. Start it in the 80s or the late mid 80s, like, because at that time the IRA's going nuts in Ireland. A lot of people were coming over, and they're still active here in the States with the stuff that they're doing. Like Chris Pratt as Chris Pratt as Mikey. I would love to see him do a serious role like that.
I think my thing, like when I saw Chris Pratt, I thought Sonny instead for Chris Pratt. See, like, in a way, Chris Pratt being Michael, he's too.
Okay, Liam Neeson as Vito. Bullseye as Sonny, because the anger thing.
Colin Farrell,
because think about how angry that
Irish
dude can get. Right. I think that would make more sense for Sonny, personally.
See, to me, Michael needs to be someone. Well, they need to do something different than what they did for The Godfather, where Sonny, right? James Caan is supposed to be the oldest, and Fredo was clearly older than him.
Right.
And Fredo's supposed to be the middle child. So it'd be nice to have somebody that's older. So somebody maybe
Colin Farrell's there.
Yeah, Colin Farrell's like our age, right? Somewhere around there.
A couple years older, like 45, I think.
Yeah, and then if you got somebody for Fredo, you could have oh, I can't remember his name. I'm drawing a blank. Hold on. I gotta look this up.
Okay.
Why did I pull up that?
Who would be an interesting choice for that?
What?
Because he could pull off looking the right age, even though he's older. David Spade as that Weasley little dude. You know what I mean?
Oh, who I was thinking was Michael Cera.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Because he's got that. He could play that meek. I don't know. Look, the problem with this is that you're not going Italian at all. You're definitely going more of the Irish route.
Right. Yeah.
Because to me, it's like Michael Cera should be or Michael Cera. I almost called him Frodo. Fredo should be, that middle child. So you want somebody a little younger to play Michael, and I don't really know.
Michael Cera or the cat that plays Lex Luthor.
Yes. Yes, that guy.
He's a good actor.
Marissa Tomei as Mama Corleone.
Sure. Marissa Tomei is, one woman show, The Godfather, with Marissa Tomei playing every character.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. I just like Marissa Tomei.
I love the idea of almost playing against, especially not kids, but younger people who have never seen The Godfather. They could watch it and be surprised about where this character is going. Sure. You know what I mean? It'd be cool to see.
Right. Casting against type.
Yeah, but also within the realm of possibility. Like Colin Farrell, you can see him playing a crazy character. He's played crazy characters. It'd be interesting to see him with that unbridled anger.
Bucho with a really interesting choice.
Oh.
That's a really good idea, actually. That's a really good idea.
Oh, dude. I want to see this movie now.
Yeah. I'm almost sorry that I brought it up.
That's
we
good.
We should put together a treatment and be like, here's who we want to play these parts, and here's an idea. Irish mafia family. Here's our casting choices. What do you think?
That's really good.
Yeah.
Of course, I feel like, just clone Adam Driver and you can just have him as every part because, man.
To a point, he could do that.
Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. Since I just watched Knives Out again.
Okay.
Daniel Craig as Vito.
Fuck. That could be. Oh, man. Yeah.
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 Man, you could really.
And then you'd have Liam Neeson as one of the other bosses.
Yeah.
No, Liam Neeson is Abe Vigoda's part.
Or Clemenza. Because he's got a bigger role.
Okay. All right. Sure. So who do we get to replace Abe Vigoda?
Well,
elder statesman.
Yeah. So somebody roughly the same age as.
Right. Like if he were still alive, you're going to laugh at me, but I would go John Candy. Because this would be John Candy's, like, he'd be able to pull off a role no one ever gave him a chance to do. Like, if you look at the way John Candy acts, he's an earnest, honest actor, right? And yeah, he's played for laughs, but like, look at some of the stuff he did in Uncle Buck, like when things got serious.
Dude, John Candy would be. Gosh, if you could.
Because imagine at the ending, it's the one time he allows himself to laugh when he goes. Look, just tell him it's just business, okay? This isn't personal, all right? I'm sorry. I'm just seeing him in the slick. That would have been great. I just want to see John Candy in something. That's all.
Oh, I know.
I miss John Candy so much.
I love now. There's a joke that probably got missed. It's one of those things that I love about Bucho. Gamer Tamer said Robert Pattinson is still on the fence for me, and then Bucho said Batman isn't as heroic when he's on a fence. Just funny.
This is true.
Let's see.
It hurts your butt too.
Let's see. What can use? Ace is an inherent vice. Chris Evans as Clemenza.
I mean,
especially in the Irish, kind of thing.
I could see that.
And you know what I want? I want a serious Jim Carrey to be back.
Yeah.
No, not you, Siri.
Stupid Apple.
I said serious.
Stupid Apple.
But no, I want Jim Carrey to be back to play something serious.
I think he'd be better in the second movie. So in the second Godfather remake.
Yeah, but he could play he could play one of the rival bosses or something.
Yeah, he could do that.
I
would almost want him in the third film as the Vatican liaison character.
Yes. The kind of squirrely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or he could pull off the vice cardinal fella that absolves Mikey at the end, because he could pull off the guy that Mikey gives his confession for the first time in like 30 years.
Yeah. He ends up being the Pope.
Right. Jim Carrey as the Pope would be fucking amazing. Because when he lets his face just do what his face does and just be kind of like looking at him, the way that he looks at life. And I think what's interesting is that I think he's got the right idea as a person on how he looks at life, but the way he expresses it is so out there. And because what he's trying to say is that, did you see the interview he did? They did the documentary about him on Man on the Moon. Like, there was all this archival. Okay, so on Netflix, it's fucking amazing. Like, and you learn so much about the dude. He talks about how, and he acknowledges how wild it is to say it out loud. But he says at some point, Andy just took over, and Jim wasn't there anymore, and he was in character all the time. And then you hear all these stories about.
Like that, yeah. No, I haven't seen what you're talking about though. I want to watch it.
They had shot all this stuff as what would potentially be a documentary or special features or whatever, and they followed him for like the whole 2 months or whatever. And he was creating problems. Like, he was in character as who's the alter ego with the glasses, the big loudmouth fat guy that Andy would play from time to time. I forget the guy's name, but Andy had this alter ego he would do. I was like this big loudmouth who drink a lot and smoke cigars and stuff. And blah, blah. At one point, Jim Carrey as this character, they're not shooting the film at this point. He's on a break. He takes a golf cart over to to Amblin Entertainment and demands to see Steven Spielberg in character with a megaphone, and he's throwing chairs and shit. Like, that's how deep in character that he got. And then you're getting interview clips with Jim Carrey now trying to explain all of this and going like, I don't know how else to say this, but here's how this happened, this and that. But there's such a clarity about the man these days. He's just like, he's gone through all this shit. He's in all these different roles. He doesn't have to work a day in his life because he's made a money at this point, and he's really a self-made man. But his life philosophy is really interesting. If you look at like the comedians in cars getting coffee with him, you get a little slice of it. Like, he is really all about like the little pleasures in life these days. So he's on the show with Jerry Seinfeld. He has this sweetener that he carries with him. It's non-sugar. It's like a liquid stevia thing. It's like, this is the best thing, man. But I like to have fun with it. Check this out. And he gets on the bench of the booth, and he gets up like 7 feet in the air, and he goes, boop, boop, boop. He's like, I just love doing that. And he just like, and it's not him being silly or playing it up for laughs. He's just really Tony Clifton. Yes. He plays Tony Clifton. And then I'm going to tell you. Fucking
I remember that now. Yes.
Yeah. And but you see this man who he's left with his thoughts so much of the time, and he spent so much of his time creating these other things, and someone else lived in his body for a few months apparently. And if you consider the possibility that kind of happened on some level, whether it was a mental break or it was an actual spiritual thing or a little bit of both, however you want to look at that, where he realizes that your sense of self is fragile. When you go to those places, so in this comedian cars getting coffee, the waitress comes up and he says, "What's your name?" And she tells her, he's like, "But that's not really who you are, is it?" And he's kind of in an awkward way trying to say that this is not who you really are right now. Who you really are is somewhere else. That's true of everybody, because we put on faces all the time and we hold in our emotions, and but he's saying on a grander scale, if you look at, like, this is getting into big philosophy territory, but like this idea that, like Bill Hicks would say, the fact is we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. So Jim Carrey's kind of on that trip too. And even though I'm like, I kind of want whatever he's having, there's also a beauty to it. So you take this guy that has that kind of a spiritual outlook, and then you put him in a remake of Godfather 3 as the Pope. I mean, come on, dude. Like, that would be amazing. That would be so much fun to watch, because he would just get to, you know, there's so many.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You talk.
No, I was just gonna say that, you know, anytime that you can interject Bill Hicks into any conversation is a good time for me.
I watch him at least once a month, every month, just to keep it in my head.
The dude was
genius, super genius, and he was able to impart complex ideas in a colloquial way that made you laugh. Carlin was like that. Pryor was like that. But Bill Hicks was something else altogether, especially when he knew he was going to die. Like, that shit went crazy.
It's like he said, okay, I've only got a few months left. Get ready, buckle up, folks, because
I'm just gonna tell you everything.
Yeah, he's just it's amazing stuff. It's also very sad, but it's also there's it's funny because I remember when I heard Louis C.K. had his I guess the hour or whatever, the comedy that he was working on got leaked on the internet.
Yeah.
And I listened to it and I said, and I kind of reviewed it on my little mini podcast thing that I was doing for a while. And it's the thing about that was that I felt like it felt a lot like Bill Hicks toward the end, where it was like, I don't care about the rules anymore. I'm not playing by those rules anymore. This is what I think. And it was dangerous and fun and like, okay, you know where the line for most people is? I'm going way over it. And I'm going to tell you like it is and give you the harsh truth. And it was like really like, whoa. And then you hear his recent special. It still pushes the boundaries, but it's much safer and it's much more toned down. It's like that leaked hour was at him at like probably one of his most angry times. But I love, I like the idea of comedy being a little dangerous and a little uncomfortable.
It has to be. You know, Chappelle has gotten to be in these later years a master of this, where he's like, stay with me. You know, even guys like Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer, they're delivering on a much more palatable level, but they're talking big ideas. Like, you know, Segura is really good at saying, well, you were just laughing at this a second ago. Like, don't tell me this isn't funny. Fuck you. And like, and he's playing with people's prejudices and their things. Buccio is asking who should play Bill Hicks in a movie. I go straight to Joaquin Phoenix because he has that energy that Bill had. He's got the subtlety because Bill could be very quiet. And he would just bust out with the energy. Like, because if you think about like when he would go nuts and start screaming like that time, it's a viral video on YouTube where he like goes off on an audience member. That scene would have to be in that movie. And I want to see Joaquin Phoenix fucking lose it like that. Like, I really do.
I want my rock stars dead.
Play with your fucking heart. You know, and the thing is, I hadn't seen that performance. I knew of Bill Hicks, but there's a grindcore band called Lockup. They opened their first album with that. Just goes, play with your fucking heart. And you're like, ooh. And you hear it, and I would replay it. I'm like, that sounds like fucking Bill Hicks. And I sought it out, and I found it. And it was really cool.
Well, I think what you're talking about is the one where
he's like, talking about I want my rock stars dead. I want them to be on drugs and all that stuff.
But then there's the lady's
several
like,
different versions of that.
There's a lady in the audience, and he says,
yes.
I pray to you, God, to kill these effing people. That whole thing, it's so funny. It's so funny because he's so mad. And then he goes, hey, comedy. It's just so good. He's basically yelling at this lady And then
for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, and but the beautiful thing is by the end of it, they're cheering for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you want to see what it being a comedian is like, listening to that is all the ups and downs of being a comedian. It's the best of times and the worst of times.
And he's revealing what it's like to be in this little shithole club. He doesn't want to play. He's had this massive success in the UK. It's at a point where he doesn't understand why he can't get the same success at home. But in Europe, he is the king of kings.
Yeah.
And he comes home, he's got to play this little stupid club in Chicago, and some fucking cunt in the front and just got to make it bad for him, you know. And for those of you listening at home, cunt can be male or female or somewhere in between. It's a universal word. I'm not losing it. But this person
apparently
was
it's Butcher's
absolute
favorite word in The Boys. So
there you go. But so Joaquin Phoenix to pull off Bill Hicks. For some reason, my brain went Patrick Stewart. I'm like, no, that would never work.
Wait a minute.
Him to try.
Again, I like to play for the. I always think of those kinds of things.
I have an off the wall idea too.
Okay, so I like to think of the little glimpses of a career, and how you could you could basically take those glimpses and blow them up.
Mm-hmm.
Bradley Cooper.
Okay, I was gonna go with Zachary Quinto.
Adam Driver. I mean,
he's too tall. He's too fucking tall.
And he's yeah. Basically, who could play Grumpy Bear? Adam Driver.
Who could play a bowl of cottage cheese on a bad day? Adam Driver.
But no,
he could do it all. Yeah.
I like the idea because I love one of the things about Bradley Cooper is I was worried for a while in a weird kind of way. I was worried that he was going to be pigeonholed as the James Spader kind of character and everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's quickly broken out of that, and he's been able to show that he can do more than just be the prick in the movie.
Right, but between the Hangover films was a big switch for him, and then now he's doing Rocket Raccoon and all this shit. Like he's got the full Monty of range that he can show off.
I think Bradley could do it. I think that would be one of those things where people would go, okay, yeah. Well, now, because most people wouldn't even know who Bill Hicks is. But
unfortunately, now let's say they were doing an experimental one-person show of Bill Hicks. My number one choice for that in a theater setting would be Betty White. Number one choice. Betty White is Bill Hicks in a one-woman show. Is it just for the laugh? A little bit, but do I really want to see that on some level? Yeah,
it's kind of like,
kind of do.
It's sort of like the Lake Placid thing. Oh, go ahead. What?
We've been going about this all wrong. What if we keep the Irish thing, but for the Godfather, it's a woman as Vito in the Vito character role? Plenty of women could pull it off.
And you know what? I could totally see that happening. Totally.
Like a Sigourney Weaver would be perfect for that.
Ooh.
Or Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep can do some evil shit, right?
Well, Meryl Streep can do, again, Meryl Streep and Adam Driver, you put them two in the movie and you can pretty much do whatever you want to do.
Oh, God. Meryl Streep. Oh, and think about the dynamic of that, too. Where they all have this massive respect for this matriarch of the family. And because in these times, that is more prevalent than ever, right? And in an Irish family, I can see that coming off really easily because of the Catholics and how they're like, mom, this and that. It's very similar. That would be cool. I mean, you could do an all-female cast and pull that off, too. You really could. If you think about it, like, there's no reason it couldn't be done. And it's not just for the, ooh, look what the Ghostbusters were going to do. Like, that could have worked.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah.
had the right people in those roles. They just gave them a shit script.
Yeah, you had really good, really good actors. Really good
Yeah,
actors.
you
Play
needed you needed a director that could rein in all of that natural ad-libbing, because some movies that works. Ghostbusters is not the movie where you want to be doing that all the time. Which apparently he just took a bunch of different takes and just glued them together to try and make something funny, and the plot got lost.
Angelica Houston.
Fuck. Damn it! I want to see these movies.
Yeah.
I want to see these
That
movies,
could be really
man.
good.
Oh, that would be good. Or if you want to go back to like the race switch off thing, right? Angelica Hudson, who played Black Panther's mom.
Angela Bassett.
Oh, I'm sorry, Angela. Why did I say Angelica Hudson?
Oh my God, Angela Bassett. Forget about it.
Right?
Okay, here's one of those things there. You know how like there's certain roles that make you go, okay, I'm a fan of yours forever now. Like forever. It doesn't matter what you do now. I'm a fan. For Angela Bassett, it was Strange Days.
I was gonna say the same thing.
My God.
That is such a that movie. No one knows that movie. It is such an amazing movie.
It's so good. It's rough though. It's really rough. I mean, there's multiple rapes in the movie that you see from the rapist's point of view. Not easy to watch, but it is an amazing, amazing story. And the thought process around the technology and everything. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Ray Fiennes.
Yeah.
No, as Vito.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. No. Anyway, I love Ray Fiennes too, but it's that movie solidified what?
Ray Fiennes as Vito, Angela Bassett as his wife. It could be like this little wink and a nod to that film. In a way.
yeah. Everybody, across the internet, they'd be like, "Oh, it's just like they just took the cast from Strange Days, and we got Tom Sizemore as Tessio."
Tom Sizemore as Sonny.
That's almost too obvious.
Too on the nose. Yeah. Okay. All
and
right.
Tom Sizemore's not got the best career going on right now. But,
no. Yeah, you're right about that. Doesn't mean I don't want to see the man act.
Oh no, I'm right there with you. I thought Tom Sizemore was one of those. He was almost on the same level as other character actors that you really like. Where you're like, oh, Tom Sizemore's in that role. Okay, he's got that. I don't have to worry about that one.
What was that? Wasn't he one of the guys that got hit with the, like some really bad behavior shit?
I think he just got really into drugs, and then he was doing.
3 years ago, I knew. I remember that. Tom Sizemore was removed from movie set for allegedly violating an 11-year-old girl. So Tom Sizemore doesn't get to be in our remake.
Oh.
Gonna go with no on that.
Okay. Then that.
There you go.
A lot of that makes sense now.
Yeah. And that apparently happened in 2003. So that's a big no, never.
Wow. That's a shame.
It is.
Bill
But there are other
Murray.
actors. Bill Murray as the Abe Vigoda character.
I was thinking Bill Murray as, well, I mean, sure, but you could have him as another boss.
No, Bill Murray as the police chief. Because he could pull off that pomposity and the arrogance. And I've frisked a bunch of punks.
Oh, man.
Man. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like the one thing that I didn't like or I don't appreciate about The Godfather is the idea that we don't get to see a lot of, and maybe it's by design, but we don't get to see a lot of any sort of characterization around the other bosses, really.
Sure.
And
you know who would be a great boss in our little remake? Charles Napier. He played the...
Is he still alive?
I think, yeah. Hang on, let me look.
You're talking about
Rambo 2
Murdoch.
Charles Napier. Yeah.
Murdoch.
I'm
coming after
no, he
you.
died. Fuck, he died in 2011. Shit. Well, we'll dig up his corpse and sit him up in a chair. It'll be fine.
We're gonna weekend at Bernie's this thing?
Sure.
Yeah,
wait a minute. Please be alive. Yes. Dude, all right. Steven Berkoff, who was the head Russian, also played the heavy in Beverly Hills Cop. If you look at him now, he's got like this really kind of like vibe to him. He's 83 years old, but he looks like a brick shithouse right now. That guy as a Russian mob boss.
That guy was so... He had such a cool look.
Yeah, like, I did not know who you are yet, but I will. You know.
It's just... Man.
And he just had this, and it was interesting. Like, he had this birthmark, this mole or whatever, that was almost like a third eye. So he's like, he looked more alert because of it. I've always felt. So it looks like even like in Beverly Hills Cop, he's sitting down at the desk, talking to the Jenny character, trying to get information about where Axel is at. And he's looking down at the magazine, but it's like that little thing's looking right at her, you know, and just like, and I have some information from him, just might be helpful for him. You know, it just, that guy's energy is so like cold. It's like fire and ice, like fire inside of ice, that guy. Just a brilliant actor. And he played some of the coolest roles like ever. And man.
Did you see Rogue Heron there?
No.
Rogue Heron in the chat said, Jim, you're the man.
No. Oh, thanks, Rogue Heron. Appreciate you. I'm not sure why you're saying that, but I will take that all day long. I'm going to reload chat. Hopefully I don't miss it anymore.
But yeah, man, I feel like we're getting an amazing cast
it's a cool
together.
Conversation. Yeah.
And they should totally make this movie. It's so weird how you really couldn't go in so many different directions. But there's a part of me that's like, I feel like a lot of the internet would lose their minds if somebody tried to remake The Godfather. I mean, it's like the idea of trying to remake Back to the Future or something. It's just like,
well, I guess the whole thing would be this. See, like, what if we pitch it from the start as like, we're going to use The Godfather as a template. We're not going to call it The Godfather. We want to take the structure of this story and see what we can do with it. But we want to be clear, this is not a remake or reimagining of The Godfather. Who would David Bautista play in this remake? Luca? Yeah.
Luca Brasi.
Yeah. Of course. Of course. I think of Dave Bautista like sitting on a bench, stuttering his way through. Like Dave getting to like bust out some non-confident like little dummy chops, you know? Because think of like how dopey he can play Drax. Now, add some stuttering to that and take out the confidence, and he's just like this big, solid, dependable dude that is a little down on himself. That's Luca. And Batista could totally pull that off. Batista's got some vulnerability in there, in his eyes especially. And he could really pull off that. And then he gets to turn it on when he goes to make the deal. And
I would almost want him in a bigger role, just because I mean that was immediately the first thing I thought when he said it.
But I'm thinking Scream vibe. He's your Drew Barrymore for this film, where like, oh, Dave Bautista's in it, like, oh, they killed him, holy shit, you know, like that would be a cool thing to do. Because otherwise, you're throwing away, you're putting an actor in the Luca role that is a throwaway at that point. So, but if you make someone like, because then Batista has to like put all this characterization into like 3 scenes, and it would up the stakes, right? You want him in a place where he's going to really, whoever's in the Luca role has to be in a position to tell people that maybe aren't as familiar with the Godfather story that this movie's not fucking around, folks. And I think Batista in that role is perfect because of that. You would need someone to be like, oh, you know, you want to have that moment, you know, because we can't assume everyone going to see this would have seen The Godfather in the past, like myself. If you announced this movie with this cast 2 months ago, I'd been like, I'm going to see this. I don't even know. Like, I got to find out what this is about. Because I think there's so many neat character turns and twists. And you could have like really big actors doing like little cameos, like Scarlett Johansson as the nurse when Mikey goes to the hospital, and he makes her help him move Vito.
Or Scarlett Johansson as Kay.
No.
Why?
I think she could pull off Kay, but I have other ideas there. Ooh. So for Kay, what's that chick that gets overused in all the Tim Burton movies?
Ava Green?
No. The one that's like, she played the love interest in Fight Club.
Oh, Helen Bonham Carter.
Yeah.
She's too old. She's too old for Kay.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That's
about
why I was
that.
trying to pick like an early 30s.
Okay.
So here's what I was thinking. At first, the first thing that I thought was Jennifer Lawrence as Kay. But I actually like the idea of Jennifer Lawrence as Connie.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that could be awesome because
and she's the right age too.
She could play vulnerable, but then you get to see her strength later. I know you weren't the biggest fan of Connie, but that's what I love about Godfather 2. And apparently, this is something I didn't realize, is that she got a Best Supporting Actress nomination for Connie in Godfather 2.
I could see it.
Because she starts off, I love the way that she starts and then the way that she ends. There's such a huge arc for her in that movie. Kristen Stewart.
I can see. No. Absolutely not.
You don't like Kristen Stewart?
She couldn't act her way out of a wet paper bag, dude. No. So I think Jennifer Lawrence for Connie is an excellent choice. So for Kay, I want someone who you would not. I want someone who is full of life and bubbly at the beginning, and you don't see the ice coming, where she just goes to where like she's beaten down and shut down by the end of 3. So who could pull that off believably, but would still be like a viable love interest for like an Adam Driver or whoever ends up in that role. Okay. Just because I haven't seen her do this kind of thing, and it would be another one of those, you know what? I like this pairing. Let's see what happens. Rey from Star Wars. She gets to be bubbly. Daisy Ridley. She would get to be.
Oh, that would be cool. That would be cool.
And if you put Adam Driver in the Mikey role like that, you would get Star Wars fans would get that. Well, we get to see them together, kind of. Right.
Oh yeah.
Like, she get to unleash some stuff.
I'm trying to think of the. Kristen Stewart can play Fredo's drunk wife for Godfather 2.
There you go. Sure. No, I would be down with that 100%. And go method, make her actually drunk. I want to see Kristen Stewart drunk on film. I'm just saying. Hang on, let me see.
I was just thinking it was weird because I was just kind of going through some of the. I was just thinking about Dune and Oscar Isaac. Seems like there's got to be a role for Oscar Isaac in there, a role for Josh Brolin in there.
Josh Brolin as Tom Hagen.
He's too old. He's got to be a brother, right? Kind of an adopted.
Yeah, but he could pull it off. You just get a good hairpiece on him. Dye his hair. Like, look at him as Cable in Deadpool 2. He looks 35. If you take the white hair away, like just look at his face, he's just a chiseled 35-year-old man.
It's weird.
Hard
I
ass.
almost want somebody that's, again, almost against type. It's almost like I want.
But he is against type because Tom Hagen's like super peaceful and like hey, let's just kind of. So imagine that gravelly voice going, listen, this is not the way things are done. You know, and he backs off when he's pressed most of the time.
You know what
Tom
I think
Hagen.
would be cool? I can't remember what's the singer's name. Johnny.
The singer.
Johnny.
Oh,
Johnny Fontaine.
So the singer, Johnny Fontaine. So who do you?
Michael
so you
Bublé.
want? I'm blanking on Michael Bublé.
He's kind of a Robert De Niro as Vito.
No. Too obvious. Ewan McGregor is Tom Hagen. Ooh.
I like that.
I do like that.
I was actually
could
thinking
really
Ewan
work.
McGregor earlier for. I was trying to think, could he play Sonny? Or could he play?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Look at like Train Spotting or something like that. Like he could totally pull that off.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, he can. He can do it.
And we got to take the two guys from Boondock Saints and put them in somewhere too, because obviously
Norman Reedus and
yeah.
Sean Patrick
Yeah.
Flannery.
Yeah. I mean, they can clearly pull off the accent.
I forgot what we were talking about.
Johnny Fontaine.
Oh yeah, Michael Bublé. Yeah, he's kind of like today's Harry Connick Jr. He's an actual singer, but I think I've seen him act in some things. But I think he could, for that small little part, you need somebody with a dreamy voice and all that kind of stuff. I was thinking the first thing I thought was Michael Bublé.
Why not John Mayer?
I don't think he could. Well, I guess it depends on what you're going for. Because if you're changing, you're possibly changing race, you're possibly changing, for them from, gender in ways, you could totally do that.
You could also do
the hot singer of today. But then again, I guess I'm just trying to think of it in terms of somebody who could headline a casino, but he could play a fading star.
John Mayer would be perfect for that.
Yeah.
Because he's at that age where he's not as relevant as he once was. He's getting to the age where he might end up doing a Vegas thing, whatever. I could see that.
Sort of a has-been, in a way.
Who you could put in that role, and it would work? Kirk Hammett from Metallica. I just really need this, my fingers don't work anymore. I gotta do something.
Michael Bublé will never get that movie. No, whatever.
Who for that guy? Who for the director guy, the producer fella?
I just the guy that I want to see in more things, and I think unfortunately he passed away. I can't. It's Joe. It's not Pantoliano. It's God. What's?
Although Joe Pantoliano would work in some shit. He would work as the producer.
Yeah.
He would be perfect for the producer.
What's his name?
And instead of horses, he's got like purebred pit bulls.
John Polito. In The Crow.
Look this fella.
In The Crow. You remember The Crow? Shit on me.
He was
that guy.
Okay.
I want that guy to be in more things, and unfortunately, I think he passed away.
I think he did too, yeah. And plus he dropped out of, didn't he drop out of,
yeah, 2016. But he was in,
well,
Big
look
Lebowski.
at the heavy, look at the heavy in The Crow. He also was the heavy in,
Tony Todd?
Yeah. Not Tony Todd.
Or Michael Wincott.
Michael Wincott.
I love that dude's voice.
I am gonna miss you.
It's such a good voice. But I mean, he was Guy of Gisborne, Sir Guy of Gisborne, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. against Alan Rickman. He was
man. If Alan Rickman were alive, he would be in this movie so hard. Fuck, Alan Rickman, man.
I know. Alan Rickman's one of those where when I heard that, it hurt because I love that guy.
Really. And I immediately, Kevin Smith puts out this long, really heartfelt podcast, like send up to him, and those are two people that you would, on paper, you would never think that those two would be such close friends, but they really were. And his role in Dogma was amazing. I am the Metatron.
So good.
Love it. Oh, that's a movie that bears revisiting, whether just as a viewing or as culturally, or even to see what he could do with a bigger budget. Like, did you ever see Red State that he did?
Kevin Smith?
Yeah.
I thought for some reason I was thinking Red State. Alan Rickman was in Red State, but you went to Kevin Smith. No. Yes, yeah. I did. I enjoyed it.
Did you ever hear him talk about what the original ending of that was going to be?
I think I did. I don't remember it though. Off the top of my head.
Where like at the end of it when the klaxon goes off at the end of it, and then they go to the ending of the film. Originally, that was a signal of Armageddon. And we had this elaborate thing where these 12-foot tall angels, and then the Archangel Gabriel goes, and then you see like the flames coming up as a wave, and then the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and he goes credits. And I'm like, oh, you motherfucker! Like that. See, if he'd have been able to do, he was like, but that would have been a $13 million ending to a $6 million flick, and that wouldn't have worked.
Right.
But if he could have pulled that off, I think that movie would have. People would have been. It would have been the dust till dawn of its day, where it's just like, oh, you motherfucker, you did it! Like.
It's so funny that he's one of those where I wouldn't say he went like the Pauly Shore route, where it's kind of like everybody loved him, and then all of a sudden nobody talked about him anymore, and then now he feels. I feel like he's been making this sort of comeback into kind of the
pop culture.
Yeah. Into our consciousness.
Yeah.
And I want to see him do something, do some more stuff, because I think he's got a lot left,
Yeah, and he certainly has ideas. Like, a lot of people shit all over Tusk. I loved that movie.
I never saw it.
I thought it was, dude, it's
really
ballsy. It's ballsy. It's a ridiculous concept, but he treats it seriously. But there's still that little Kevin Smith quirky humor in it too. It's an interesting. I think the mainstream audiences that went to see it thinking, oh, it's a Kevin Smith film. But if you were a podcast listener and you knew the impetus of the idea, and you heard as they're going into pre-production, and you knew what to expect, and then what you got on film was even better than what he had told you it was going to be. Michael Parks in that film is fucking amazing, and it's a horrific
I think you
film.
could just say that Michael Parks is amazing.
Yes,
I mean him playing Kill Bill 1, he plays the cop that comes and sees the dead bodies, and then he also plays the Mexican gangster at the end of Kill Bill Volume 2.
Right,
which it's like. That's the same guy? Holy crap.
Mm-hmm. He died recently too, didn't he?
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah.
Because he should be in this movie as well. He should be in this. We could do a dead actors cast and actors cast.
Or just anybody in for the role.
Well, the anybody in, that would be insane.
Yeah.
Because Bucci's in there going like, Al Pacino is Vito. Like, well, yeah. But it's too on the nose. Like, I want something new.
And I want something. It's kind of like.
I
would make a terrible casting director, because what I would do is I would say, I'm giving you a shot, kid. I've never seen this out of you, but I think you can do it. Go. That's what I want. I like to see an actor push themselves. But go ahead. What were you saying? No. Buccio. No. No. He who shall not be named will not be discussed on this. No, I'm kidding.
Why not Wahlberg as the Weasley brother?
Fredo?
Yeah. He could do it.
He could do it, but I don't think
But
his
I don't
ego
wanna.
would allow him to do it.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
You know what I mean? He would probably
yeah.
say, "I'm not playing the Weasley brother. Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, but you get to expand. You said, he's like, I'm more of a let me in your house kind of actor.
Yeah.
I mean, he did Ted though. He did Ted.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like Mark Wahlberg is one of those guys who really thinks he's the most amazing thing ever.
Oh, that was clear when he was Marky Mark of the Funky Bunch.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute.
Leo is Leo DiCaprio? I don't see him as Vito, but I could see him in the film for sure. Mark Wahlberg as Luca. I could see that actually because he's got the body for it, and he's kind of that unassuming, powerful energy, and it would be a pivotal role. Like I could see that, legit.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Tom. I was thinking first Michael, but I think Tom Hagen, Ryan Gosling.
Oh shit. Yeah. There you go. Okay. Sure.
This would be the biggest budget movie in the history.
Oh my god. Yeah. Zilla, yeah. But what I was going to say before, I wanted to blurt it out, but like Christopher Walken is one of the bosses.
Oh. That's a yes. Christopher Walken and I was already thinking yes in my head. Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You put him in.
Christopher Walken as the cat at the beginning. Yes. I mean,
meow.
Oh, Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe.
Oh man.
Yes.
Him as Vito would be amazing. Because he would have to like have quiet energy, which he can do if he allows himself. Like think about all his like monologues in The Gladiator.
I was just thinking
when he's just
the scene, Sonny, what are you doing? That whole part when you know what I'm talking about, and he's like, never let them know what you're thinking. That whole scene, I was just thinking Russell Crowe in that part, and I was thinking, oh, that'd be
never
hilarious.
Let them know what you're thinking. Never.
Okay, Christopher Walken is Mo Green. Yes, I don't care.
Sure. I mean, shit. Christopher Walken is the guy who runs the fruit stand where Vito gets shot across the street from. I mean, you put Walken in anything.
Wow.
Walken as the lamp in the hotel room. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. And Crowe and Gosling reunited somehow for not getting our Nice Guys sequel. Yes. Nice Guys is a great movie. Great movie. Ah, it was so good.
I agree.
Good old Shane Black.
Yep. Love Shane Black to death. Speaking of Shane Black, the Monster Squad documentary is coming out in a couple of weeks. It's called Wolfman's Got Nards.
But where is it a separate? Is it going to be available anywhere? Do you have to purchase it on? What is
Amazon?
It? So it's just a Blu-ray.
They're doing Blu-ray, and they're doing a digital release as well. I don't know if the Blu-ray comes with a digital copy or not. But they've been working on that for like 3 years. And they've been touring it and showing it and stuff. And it's the lead actor. You know, he's all grown up now, and he's been kind of championing it. And so I'm really, as a super fan of that film, like I can't wait to see it. What?
Benicio, for sure, would be fun in there somewhere.
Yeah, he could be. I know who Benicio could be. Benicio could be Mike's Sicilian wife's father, his Sicilian father-in-law.
No, there's no woman like that in this town. That guy.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. Like how? Because he you know, he could choose some scenery and be over the top. You know.
Paulie. Remember Paulie in the movie? He's the one that it's during the whole leave the gun, take the cannoli. He's the one they pop because, you know, hey, get on the other side so I can see. You know, and because he's afraid he's gonna get whacked. But he's the guy that at the very beginning he's the one that kind of led everything to. Anyway, Paulie.
Okay, yeah.
Steven Dorff. You know.
Yes.
Ever since Blade, I've been wanting to see. I've been thinking, he plays that. I can't remember the character's name. Even the character's name was kind of dorky, but he plays crazy and intense in a really fun way, and I think he would be fun.
We still haven't cast Kay.
I thought we.
I want to. No, we didn't. We you'd put Connie. You put
Jennifer
had
Lawrence.
Connie in there. Yeah. We never settled on a K. I really want to rack my brain about this because that's a pivotal role.
Kay against.
We were
who did we decide for Michael? Bradley Cooper? Or did we?
Either Bradley Cooper or. Oh no, we did say we said freaking Daisy and.
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver, yeah, we said that. Let's say if it was Bradley Cooper, though. If it was Bradley Cooper, who would you put on the other side of that coupling? So that's interesting.
See what Bujo said? Emily Blunt?
Okay. You know who I would like to see, but it's impossible, if I could time travel? A young Helen Hunt would be really good in that role. I love me. Put Helen Hunt in everything. Helen Hunt as Spider-Man. Helen Hunt as Godzilla. Like, I'm in 100%. Like, I always loved her, but then Castaway happened, and I was like, that for me was like where I'm like, any movie she's in, I'm in. Let's freaking go. And then also, like, I think her best line in Jurassic Park was "Run." Like that is just great.
Oh wait, that's not Helen Hunt in Jurassic
It is
Park.
no. Yeah, it is. It isn't. Am I getting people confused again? Shit. Hang on. Helen Hunt.
That's
Helen Hunt would work, but I get those two actors confused all the damn time. Let me find her.
I'm drawing a blank. She was in Last Jedi. She was Holdo in Last Jedi.
Yes. Laura Dern. Both of those actors are amazing. but Helen Hunt, Castaway, yes. Laura Dern, Run, absolutely. And his Holdo, I thought was big dildo energy. Loved it so much. Yeah, it was really good. Since I've brought up this cast, I'm looking at like people. So the guy that played Tim, Joseph Mazzello, he's still an active actor. He's doing some stuff. There's something for him in this for sure. No Goldblum in our Godfather remake, no sir. Sam Neill, maybe.
You're not a fan of the Jeff Goldblum?
I'm a huge fan of Jeff Goldblum. I don't see him in this film. I see him in the third one. He
As
could
the
play
lawyer?
As the lawyer would be perfect. Yes.
Of course, that's if you decide to not bring Tom Hagen back because of a dispute of pay, which is the only reason why that
Who was my
character
Tom
there.
Hagen?
Huh?
Who was my Tom Hagen?
Ryan Gosling?
That was yours. I had another one.
I don't know. Did you?
But yeah, Ryan Gosling, if he goes through 3 films, I could totally see that. But because I like the way that lawyer character worked, we could have him as a legal aid. We could have someone as a legal aid or something. Or like a partner in the firm is just like, no, we can't do this shit. What are you talking about?
Or we could go the Frank Oz route for a legal aid. Like I said, I just saw Knives Out. I've had Knives Out on the brain for a week.
You know what my
now.
favorite Frank Oz role is? And you're gonna laugh
Sit
at
down.
me.
Spies
Like Us. Yeah. 100%. Right? He's like, and then watch these two shenanigans. That movie. God, there's not enough time in the day. Like, there's so many movies I want to go back and watch.
It's on HBO Max right now.
Is it?
Yeah, and so I put it on my list. I'm like, I'm watching that. I'm watching it at some point.
I have it on DVD. It's just in storage. I as soon that was one of the movies I bought, and I just love that movie. Doctor. You know.
Won't you gentlemen have a Pepsi? Dude, I have so many lines from that movie. I watched it so many times. It was so good.
Me too. But I watched it. I recorded off of television, so when I get the DVD years later, yeah.
Want to get some coffee? Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. And then no. Oh man, I love that movie so much.
What's a dick for to pee with? Oh, it's so funny.
Oh man. Oh, my face hurts from laughing. Really does. This is too much fun, man. This is good.
Hey,
this is what happens when two good friends who love movies this much get together and they haven't seen each other in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're just like all the everything. For those of you watching at home, this is what it's like when he and I just hang out. We just like, well, this, but what about that? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just a ricochet of amazing awesomeness. That's what. That's the tagline for the show. Order 42, a ricochet of awesomeness. I don't remember what I said already.
Yeah, because our conversations are very much like the trash compactor scene when he shoots the blaster at the door.
Yes.
If you forget how to try to start magnetically sealed, put that thing away. You're gonna get us all killed.
Hey, speaking of that, I just purchased the Big Bad Crazy 4K Saga set.
Oh, Ernie, you didn't.
What do you mean? What?
Why would you buy that?
What do you mean?
Star Wars Saga in 4K without the standard editions of the films? No.
Oh, I know, but anyway.
Okay, what about it?
Anyway, so it's gotten me thinking about. I swear, maybe we'll go back to The Godfather at some point, but
yeah.
My thinking now is that now that the PS5 is coming out, 4K drive and all that kind of stuff,
right?
That was the first 4K anything that I have. So now, what 4K movies should I look at getting now?
Well, they're clearly going to do a re-release in 4K of The Godfather. I think that definitely has to be on the list. I grabbed a few just because, like, in many instances, buying the 4K Blu-ray, would come with a digital, and it was a more cost-effective option. So I've got a handful of them. Like, I would love to see the original Terminator in 4K. I think that would be really good. Because, again, we had this discussion, I believe, last time, where 4K is that perfect, where it's a lossless transfer of film, right? So you want to look at films that have that quality to them. So whenever they if they actually pull it off, I don't think they'll ever do this, but I'll stand by this. RoboCop, that print of that film is so fucking beautiful in Blu-ray. If they could do a 4K transfer of that, you got to have that.
Well, they're doing that 4K Total Recall that I brought up a few weeks ago, and I'm kind of thinking about that one.
I would because that movie's beautiful. One that isn't even on Blu-ray would be great. True Lies would be awesome if they ever do a 4K of that.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Sure. I don't particularly care for that film, but sure.
I watched it.
Okay, you know what I want to see in 4K? You know what I want?
What's that?
Universal Monsters Collection in 4K. That's what I want.
So like original Wolfman,
like the old 30s, yeah, like Lon Chaney, Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi.
That's one of those where I'm really curious as to what 4K is gonna do for movies like that. You know, because like I have the 4K Lawrence digitally, because I bought Lawrence on sale because it was the whole iTunes thing, right? If you bought an iTunes movie at any price, as long as you bought it from iTunes, they automatically upped you to 4K when they brought 4K in. So I got the Lawrence 4K because I got it for $5, which is a steal.
Right. Sure.
It looks crazy, but I wonder about some of those older films, how that's going to look, because they just released the 4K Jaws, and to me that's a no-brainer. I've got to get that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But
but with a black and white film, I think it
right.
would really benefit from it. Black and white's going to look amazing because HDR, high dynamic contrast. Like if you're thinking about it in those terms, you're going to see more of the film, presumably, because you've got a wider range of your blacks, whites, and grays. So I think in a black and white film, it's only going to benefit. You know, in theory, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either.
I would like to see that. I would like to see it done properly.
You got the crappy version, didn't you? Why? I didn't see enough grays. I don't know.
Spaceballs, sure. Spaceballs would look great. Clerks from chat, they said. Yeah.
It's weird, though, because there's certain movies where I'm like, you know what? I almost feel like some movies work better on lower quality. Like Clerks on DVD. It should look like that. To me, it should. I don't know. I don't know if I want to see the super pristine 16 millimeter version of Clerks.
But I'm coming from a place of preservation, where give it to me the way it was shot. Howard the Duck, fuck yeah, Howard the Duck, man. I love Howard the Duck. The Vindicator in 4K. I would knock over an old lady for the Vindicator in 4K. That'll never happen.
I just don't. That's the thing. It's like I don't think that the jump in quality from what they used to film it on, I don't think that it would make much difference. Yeah, you've got it on the new format, but that's really it. That's kind of how
I guess my thought process boils down to the format making it so there's no compression in the transfer. Ultimately, that's what I'm looking at. So Clerks on Blu-ray is probably that, because it was shot in 16 versus 35. So anything shot on 35, I want in 4K if it's a good movie that is even remotely anything visual going on. The Raiders of the Lost Ark films come on all day long.
But no, I was thinking
the Back to the Future 4K is coming out too.
Oh yeah. That's already on my. It's already in my list. I've already got that on my list. That's the thing I was talking about. I've never purchased it outside of a VHS. I purchased the DVDs, I think, for my dad, and I never purchased them again. And I'm like, I can't believe I don't have those. So I have the Blu-ray set. I'm getting the 4K for sure.
I might, because there's enough new special features on it, which is pretty good.
I want a bunch of Tarantino's recent movies.
Oh sure, yeah.
Like Hateful Eight
in 4K. Dude, Hateful Eight, that's a fucking great film.
It's a beautiful movie, though. I mean, it's a great movie, but it's beautifully
but it's so well shot. Yeah. And I like all the contrasts and the firelight in the cabin and everything. Oh.
I'm just talking about all the scenery,
scenic stuff. Well, that too, yeah. I mean, yeah.
And can you believe Chris, our gaffer, worked on that movie? That's insane. That we've had that level of people working on the Game Chasers movie.
Top Gun in 4K.
Yes, that's on. I don't
that
know
won
if
an
I put
Oscar
it on my
for
list,
sound design too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
pretty much
the sound design of that movie is amazing.
Legend in 4K.
Sure. Blade Runner, duh.
Mother Night. That whole Oh, Tim Curry. Tim Curry is darkness.
I haven't seen that film in so long.
It's been a long time for me too, but man,
I like late 80s probably was the last time I saw it.
His the way he laughs, his chin actually moves, and that makeup is ridiculous in that movie.
You know what I want to see in 4K? The original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yeah.
That's a great film with great lighting and the mood and the everything.
I want to see pretty much anything James Cameron. Aliens, of course. Sure. But I was thinking Alien.
Oh, yeah. They're coming out. Aliens coming out with 4K, so Aliens is coming.
But is it? It's owned by Disney now. Remember? And they were saying, yeah, we may not get it.
Iron Eagle. That's a good one. Love Iron Eagle, dude. I love that movie.
The Right Stuff would be a good one, too. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Obviously 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And the first 6 Star Trek films for sure. Particularly the first one and the second one. First one because visually it would be popping. The second one.
That one. I know it gets a lot of crap, but I like it.
Like half of the script is Sulu doing this.
It's great. I love it.
Okay,
I love that.
sure.
I love that one. In fact, I think a lot of people
Slow
say
motion
that,
picture.
but I like. It almost feels like it's an actual exploration, a space exploration. It's not an action movie.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. My problem with the film is the pacing. If you re-edit it, like the story's awesome. I love the way it's done. In a perfect world, I would have the costumes from 2 in 1 because I like those uniforms better. Aside from that, I just think that he's jacking off to the effects way too much. Way too much. Like, I don't need to see this shit. I don't.
Trumbull, right? Douglas Trumbull did.
No, that was Robert Wise directed that.
No, I'm talking about the effects. Because it's got that same kind of almost lens flare look.
ILM did it.
Huh? What'd you say?
ILM did it. ILM. Industrial Lights and Magic. Most of those shots, like the really crazy ones. I don't know, sir.
Because you know who Douglas Trumbull is, right? Blade Runner, that Blade Runner look with the lens flares. That's also in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Well,
I think he did.
Might have done some of it, but let me look.
Hey.
I'm looking it up, bro.
But like Star Trek 4 is a lot of people's favorite. Outside of 2.
I can see why.
But talk about a movie where half the movie is something that's the ball spinning. How many times do we have to see the ball spinning?
But they're short shots. They're short shots.
The movie's okay. The movie's just okay.
I like that sound effect. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Because I've often wanted to do that, use that in like an industrial song. Just saying. Just saying. It would work.
Oh.
Okay, so the special effects are Martin Bresson, Ray Matley, Daryl Pritchett, Jor Van Klein, Alex Weldon, Courtney Dane, Ted Kerner, Kevin Pike. Visual effects. Yeah, forgot about that. What's your guy's name again?
Douglas Trumbull.
Dykstra and stuff are in here, so yeah. It's...
visual effects. Douglas Trumbull.
Where? I don't see him. I'm on IMDb.
Here, you're gonna go off for a second. At least on the screen, your voice will still be there. But
okay.
And this is a different. Dang it. Browser capture. Bam.
Well, I'm not looking at the stream, so.
Oh, well, I'm showing the people at home that there's Douglas Trumbull, and down there, Blade Runner, Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Well, yeah, he was the second unit director.
That's visual effects. Oops.
Special photographic effects editor.
See, I think he's the one that kind of gave that look. It almost gave that Close Encounters type look.
He did the photography of the effects is what he did, according to IMDb. But the actual effects were done like the Dykstras and stuff, which ILM, dadgummit.
No, right? I'm not disagreeing with you. I just thought that he had something to do with it, and that's where I got confused.
I'll tell you what has something to do with it. These nuts. I don't know. I'm going with that shit, actually.
But Bucho brought up Bloodsport for 4K.
Fuck yeah.
And see,
That's a good looking film.
But Yojimbo and Sanjiro? Dude, any Kurosawa movie, I'd be all over. Yeah.
You kidding? Of course. The original Gojira in 4K.
Is that a thing, or is it just on Blu-ray right now?
As far as I know, it's only on Blu-ray. Like the last thing that came out.
That big Criterion set?
Yeah, which I'm still mad that Billy got it before I did.
Yeah, somebody gifted that to him, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. Man, so if you, awesome. I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. If anyone's feeling generous, Daddy wants that very bad. Because I have like all the Godzilla.
Daddy Jimbo.
Yes, that's right. Yes, very much
Minority
so.
Report, that'd be a good one.
Sure. I didn't like the film that much, but it would look great. I
See,
saw it in the
that's one
theater.
of
I was
those.
like,
I have a
maybe
weird
it
thing.
aged well. I have it on DVD. I should rewatch it.
I have
I
a
should give it a
weird.
chance.
I don't know what this is, but certain movies may, like for example, Inception. Inception is one of those movies that it's visually crazy, the story's dense and all that stuff, but the reason I love that movie is the music. I love that soundtrack.
Sure.
That score is just phenomenal for me, and that's why it was one of those that infected my head. It basically performed an Inception on my head and made me no, it
so
made
4K,
me
Tim Burton Batman.
yes. Tim Burton anything? I'll
James
just
Bond
say
series.
Yeah, see the Bond series, that's another one where I almost feel like the super high pristine quality of the 1080 on Doctor No and all those.
Sure.
It's weird because I almost feel like it's a product of that time, so it should look like no better than DVD quality for you.
Right,
Just
and
stay
then you
there.
look at like View to a Kill where like there's some really obvious blue screen shots that are pretty horribly done, you know.
It's weird how those almost look better at a lower quality because it
Right,
masks some of that.
I get you, but it should still be available.
Oh, I get you. Yeah, I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but that's one of the
King
things.
Kong.
That's one of the things on my list.
RKO King Kong.
Oh, the original King Kong, 1933 or whatever. Is it 33?
Yeah, 33.
Yeah.
Again, from a film because every time they release this stuff, it's that much more of a chance it's not going to go anywhere. Honestly, I would love to see a 4K compilation of like all the silent films, like the Edison era silent films and shit. Because that stuff needs to be preserved.
Have you ever watched any of the why am I drawing a blank again? Like the General, Buster Keaton, any of that stuff?
A little bit.
Oh my god, dude, the General.
Or Charlie Chaplin stuff too.
Yeah, dude, those movies are awesome. The
Three
General.
Stooges in 4K.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I just remember the General was on our list of the American Film Institute top 100 movies or whatever, and we were just kind of putting it off. And we were like, oh, do we really want to watch a silent movie tonight? You know, we finally put it on, and both of us are dying laughing. It's so good. The acting is good. The actual performance is good, but then the stuff that he's doing on film, you could tell there's no CG, there's no wire work. The guy's doing this stuff, and it's insanely good. Everyone should watch Buster Keaton movies. Holy crap.
Enter the Dragon, 4K.
No question. No question.
That's one of the best films ever.
Yeah.
Hell yes. Yes, Fifth Element, for sure.
Even though, and all the stuff about Luc Besson that's come out, it's kind of like, why you gotta, just annoys me when I hear that they're into weird crap.
Did you see that they're doing a complete reboot of Resident Evil, but they're keeping it closer to the games?
No.
Yeah, they're doing a reboot of...
Good, because all of those movies were trash, in my opinion. I can't stand them.
If you took the name Resident Evil off, they were fine.
Yeah, they're still campy, but
yes,
I like a little campy. More. I like a little less camp.
No wonder you didn't like fucking Flash Gordon.
No, sorry. In fact, I read there was a Reddit post last night about Flash Gordon that went on for, I mean, pages and pages of people just...
Ooh, Tron.
Yeah.
So pages and pages.
Pages and pages of, oh, I love Flash Gordon. Oh, Flash Gordon was this. Flash Gordon was that. This is why I love it. This is when I went and saw the movie. I think one guy, I might be mixing two posts together in my head, two stories, but it was like there was only 5 people in the theater watching it, and every single person walked out and demanded a refund except for one kid, and he watched it 5 times in a row. So one kid sat there and watched Flash Gordon fight, and I'm like, yeah, I can see that. I think it's just because that Dino De Laurentiis thing. Because the same style of effects is in Dune, and I couldn't stand that either.
Okay, sure.
It's that
Conan the Barbarian.
Really bad. You know, honestly, I don't even remember seeing the whole thing of Conan the Barbarian.
That is a great flick, dude. And 4K treatment for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Great movie, dude.
I know that there's a few things on my list for 4K, but it's like I'm not in like a huge hurry to buy them unless they're going out of print, you know?
Right. And it's something where, because I legitimately don't think 8K discs are ever going to be a thing. I really don't think that.
It'll go all streaming by then.
Right.
I think 4K is the last physical media we'll ever get, just as like this is the last console set with physical media.
Probably, yeah. Probably.
Fortunately.
Yeah. But it's something where I can see myself buying 2 PS5s at some point, and then when they start to go off the beaten path, people stop using them, buying a bunch of them just for parts, just to keep the 4K player going in the house. Coen Brothers.
Yes. Pretty much anything. Miller's Crossing.
Oh, everything they've done. You bet.
But Band of Brothers is great. You know,
Sure.
Band of Brothers would be a great 4K.
Patton.
Yeah.
I mean, Patton, shit.
Wait, were you the one that you didn't like Full Metal Jacket? Or you did?
No, I like Full Metal Jacket, but I think that it should have been instead of 2. I gave the argument about how it's a 3-act film. It's like the balance is dumb. They should have had a longer first act into the That was my argument.
Yeah,
love that movie though.
Which is your favorite? Is your favorite part the beginning?
Yes. Yes. I think
it
that
feels like 2 movies to me. It really does.
It does. And that's why I was saying that what they should have done was the last piece, the third act, should have been about half the length and at a faster pace. And the second act should have been, so first act could have been longer, third act dramatically shorter, and then the second act needed a bit more length to it too. They needed more characterization. They needed more of him in Saigon, back home, like establish who he is before they burst him out into the shit. We needed more characterization, I think. We need to know more about the kid. We need to latch onto that kid a lot more.
Such a good movie, though.
Yeah. Okay. And you're going to laugh at me for this choice for 4K? Austin Powers trilogy.
Yeah.
Visually very striking films, no matter how you look at it.
It's weird how
great movies.
For me, it's like every time somebody puts something in chat, the lines come into my, you can't fight in here. This is the war room. All that stuff. Like, it's weird how as soon as they're putting them in there, Minority Report is what I was trying to. We got off tangent because we still haven't talked about Godfather in about 45 minutes. But anyway,
right.
The Minority Report is one of those that the movie's okay, but the music, the score takes it up a notch for me.
Sure.
Because the score is so good. And Inception is one of those where I feel like that's probably a 3-star movie for most people, but it's a 4-star movie for me because the score and everything works in concert together to make. And then, of course you got Leo in there. And anytime you got Leo, you get an extra point for me. You know what I mean? I don't know. Women sense my power. Dude, there's so many great movies that I want to see what that difference is. Because there's, I've never seen 4K Blu-ray or UHD whatever it's actually called. I've never seen that level. So I don't know, because everybody says, oh, if you're just streaming 4K, you're not seeing the full thing.
It's true, though.
It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know what movies would really benefit from that
I mean,
jump.
so to me, you've got to look at something that the film grain is evident in the film. I think is a big part of it. Anything where there's a lot of motion, and so if you put something in 4K with your high contrast and on a TV that has a really high refresh rate, of 60 or better, that's where you're going to see it. So like Star Wars is going to benefit from it, even though it's stupid ass special edition bullshit. It'll look great. Okay, it'll look great. Even the prequels will look fine, I'm sure. I'm just kidding.
I love the prequels, man.
No,
Hold on a second. I'm just going to switch off of you for a second. Hold on. Okay. Switch off. Okay. I wanted to see if the syncing was better.
Okay.
See, it's weird. I don't understand.
Probably me.
No. You're on the actual Zoom window, it's perfect. But in OBS, it's like it's far behind. It's just a little off.
That's weird.
But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
You can correct that in OBS too, actually. You can add delay and shit.
Delay to the audio?
Is the audio ahead of the video?
Yes.
Then you can delay the audio by as much as it is off.
Okay. Well,
but, we can experiment with that some other time.
Yeah.
Tech Talk with Grindhead Jim. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that films that they look like film, right? That's
right.
number one. Fast movement, obviously. But anything that just is well shot, looks beautiful. Face Off, Con Air, and The Rock triple back? Sure. Those qualify. Of those three, which one's your favorite?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tough call, right?
Well, it depends. Because I think just pure ridiculousness and enjoyment, Face Off. Best movie is The Rock.
Okay.
That's how I look at it. Con Air is just goofy as hell.
Con Air is somewhere in the middle between the two, I think.
It's campy, but then it tries to take itself too seriously, and that annoys me.
Right.
But
I saw that in the theater.
You got Dave Chappelle. You got, what's his name? Steve Buscemi.
Mm-hmm.
John Malkovich hamming it up.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. It's fun. Ooh. It's just, I would rather watch Face Off because it's so damn goofy.
4K. Anything David Cronenberg's directed.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Like Videodrome, The Fly, freaking Scanners.
Scanners.
Dude,
I want to see that
head explosion in 4K.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Are you kidding me? Yes. I love and he also did History of Violence. A lot of people don't know that. Here's an interesting tidbit for you that won't be a huge oh. You know who drew the graphic novel History of Violence? Vincent Locke, who's the guy that does all the artwork for Cannibal Corpse.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I mean, I wouldn't have known that at all, but that's really interesting, though.
I didn't know it either until I saw the special features for the DVD. I was like, oh, shit. Okay, cool. Because Vince is known more for he's known for violent artwork, obviously. But he's been always been like a zombie guy. So for him to do like this more realistic approach, but then you look at where his art's gone since then, and it's like, oh, I can totally see him drawing that, that'd be a good one.
I was thinking
all the Cronenberg shit.
Yeah, and I was thinking, because what I was doing the other night, because we just got, I don't have really an HDR TV. When I bought it, it wasn't HDR, but then Sony did an update on these TVs that made them have HDR. So nice. I'm experiencing some new HDR stuff that I didn't even know was going to be in it. So I wasn't concerned about it as much. I was like, well, whatever next TV we end up buying in the next 2-3 years or whatever, we'll get one with HDR and we can see it then. But now we can see it. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing all these. I mean, the HDR is crazy.
It is.
But what was interesting is seeing some of the weird transfers. Like, for example, the first one I brought up was Lawrence. Yeah. Lawrence looks amazing in HDR. Then I was thinking, okay, older movies that I have ability to see HDR. My dad bought Spartacus.
Sure.
So I pulled up
Ben-Hur.
Spartacus. Yeah. And Spartacus looked insane. But then I pulled up, strangely enough, The Karate Kid. In 4K HDR. It looks kind of crap. And the reason they did is because they did the sharpness on the grain. So the grain really sticks out in HDR. And it's like, this is it's fine. You'll get used to it. It's just like some movies are so good that you can sit there and watch it on DVD and go, man, this looks like kind of crap. But then 5 minutes later, you don't care anymore. You're just in the story.
Well, that's the thing. On some movies, I like that. Like, for example, I really like that in RoboCop and the transfer that I have. Like, the grain's very evident, and it looks amazing.
It's weird, though. There's grain in Lawrence and Spartacus, and it's there, but it's not, hey, there's grain on it. You know, Karate Kid, it's really turned up. Like, it's
You'll
literally
have to show
like
me. I'll have to come over and you have to show me.
Yeah, it's literally like they said, okay, let's do, that looks really good in that one scene, and they just applied it to the whole movie. That's what it looks like.
You're going to laugh when I tell you why I thought of this, but Ghostbusters.
Oh, Ghostbusters is already on my list for 4K, for sure.
Yeah. So the reason I thought of that is because I saw Karate Kid and Ghostbusters in a drive-in back-to-back. Ghostbusters and Karate Kid. Yeah.
See, it's funny. I had a VHS tape and for Ghostbusters, and there's, remember in the old days of SP or EP, EP? Yeah, EP was where you could fit 3 movies on 1 2-hour.
That's SLP.
Well, whichever.
EP is which is, it's a vinyl term for the smaller record.
Extended play.
So in other words, right. So the EP for a record, if you put it on a full size LP, it's just you're putting less music on the same size vinyl, so it's higher quality. But it's also that you get the 7 inches and blah, blah, blah. But you had SP, LP, and SLP.
Anyway, we had 6 hours on this tape.
Yes.
So I could fit 3 movies on it. It was, I'm pretty sure it was Ghostbusters, Gremlins, and Goonies.
Oh, nice, dude.
Yeah.
That's an afternoon for you right there.
Heck yeah. But all of those movies you just put in there are a yes. Last of the Mohicans, Collateral, Tombstone.
Okay. Goodfellas, Casino, which are already out in 4K. Actually, Casino is one I have in 4K right now. I have it. Obviously, I haven't seen it yet. It'll be a while before I do, because the thing is, 1, I'm not getting a PS5 right away. 2, I don't have a 4K TV yet, but they're cheap enough that I know I know exactly which model I'm getting.
It's so weird how cheap they are.
Yeah. I'm going to be getting a 55-inch Toshiba that has Amazon Fire Stick built into it. And a friend of mine has it. She loves it. And I've read the reviews. It's consistently it's a really solid model,
I was doing a little bit of research on that too, just because I got an email from Best Buy and it was like, this TV is like blah, 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 and it's $4, whatever. Anyway, so I was just looking at it and looking at at the level. So basically my TV, the newer model of my TV is like $1,000 now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 2,300 or something like that when we bought it. And it's like, I can't believe you can get a 75-inch 4K HDR TV for under $1,000.
Right. It's crazy. So here's something that you'll find interesting, and it was the clincher on why I decided to get this, because all the specs match up. It's got the right contrast ratios, it's got HDR, all that stuff. But the one I was like, I have to have this one. You know what inputs it has on it?
Coax.
It does. It has, well, not coax, but
I was about to say.
well, it does have coax, but it also has the analog, the 3 yellow.
That's composite, right?
Composite.
It has composite on it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, as a gaming enthusiast, that's amazing. I can plug my VCR into it.
I still have. Or wait, I think I might have gotten rid of it, but I think I still have a composite switch box.
I have 3 of them.
I have
you
like
can still buy them.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
like
you can still buy them.
it's so weird. And then I was the first thing I thought was the little 2 screws for your antenna. Remember the antenna?
That's your coax. That's coax.
No, not like I mean, there was like literally 2 screws, and there were little clamps.
Yeah.
Remember for your antenna? You remember that?
Yes.
People are like, these days are like, what's an antenna?
Right. So in my living room at one time, I had it set up in such a way because with analog composite cable, well, it's component because composite is the 3 colors, and you're compositing them together to make the image. Component cables are the video, audio.
See, I always got those confused.
Me too. You're probably... And I had to make it. So I had the component cables, and they don't really have a lot of signal degradation. So what I did is I got one of those switchers, and I got one with an IR, and I programmed my harmony to work that as well. So I could switch consoles and everything, and then the whole thing. Well, in order to get like 8 consoles into this 4-thing switcher, I had splitters on it. And the splitters, because they're cheap, they work in both directions. So I was plugging 2 videos into 1 video input. And I just had to make sure that only what I wanted to play was on, and it would work. And it was really cool. And then I routed those through the VCR, as well as my Atari, because I had a coax. You can convert an Atari with this little tiny thing, plug it in the back. I had everything on beck and call very easily.
See, that's so weird because, like, for me, part of the I guess the experience, because I got that switch box along, around that.
Part of the experience is hooking it up for you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's part of the deal. It's like, okay, now I've got to unplug this, and it was almost like part of the thing. But I get what you're saying.
I get where you're coming from too. But this was when I was just getting into gaming again, and I said, and you know me, I like to create and solve problems. So I'm like, okay, I want this on the shelf. I want to flip a switch and be able to play. How do I do this? So I did research for like 2 days, figured it all out, mapped it out. I'm like, okay, this will all work. Bought all the components, and then just went blah, 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 blah. Had to solve a few problems along the way, and then I could play anything in my library I wanted to with the flick of a switch. And it was amazing.
I think that is awesome. And it would be cool to set it up with something like Alexa or, whatever.
And what was cool was that because it was a living room setup, I had like this big area rug covering everything. So I ran extensions for all the controllers, the cables, underneath the rug. So the controllers are just on the fucking side table right there. I even went to the length of getting wireless Atari controllers. I still have them. Yeah, I still have them.
Is that RF or how does that work?
It's RF. It works on the same principle as the Xbox 360 controllers do. Different frequency. And they just work. And hopefully, they've been in storage a long time. I hope I remembered to remove the 9-volt batteries before I stored them, because otherwise I'm going to have to do some heavy cleaning when I get them out, because there's going to be battery acid all inside.
See, there's such a weird thing. It's such a weird thing, that kind of thought process. To play them all on original hardware it's a problem. It's a problem to be solved. You know what I mean?
But but having this TV, I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Hardly at all.
Right.
Now, granted, the TV that I had at the time had those inputs as well. But upscaling technology is better and all that stuff. But it was neat. And there are newer versions of the hardware out there that you can play it, but it's going to cost you like a couple $1,000 to get everything. And not even everything is out there. So there's still some consoles you have to solve that problem for. And the upscaling is a problem in and of itself. Like, basically, if I wasn't going to get this TV for its inputs, I could do the exact same setup, put it into this converter box that's out there. It's like $200. It's really good. And be off to the races. Like, there's like multiple ways to do this stuff. And what I love about like 4K is that this is a turnkey solution to watching movies as they're intended. Like, I like that. Like, that's why I'm so fascinated by it. which is weird. With movies, I'm totally down for it. With video games, no, I want to preserve the physical media. I don't like having everything digital. Like, I have every game for every system on my hard drive right now.
Right.
And playing it on my computer feels like I'm cheating. I don't like it.
It's so weird, isn't it? Like, for me, I mean, I've got
a movie, I'll watch it any which way I can. But a game...
See, well, it's exactly the opposite for me, for the most part. Like, I don't want to watch a movie... Like, I don't care if it's a DVD or a 4K, but it's got to be in the right aspect ratio. Damn it.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? That's one thing that's really important to me. But with games, I got my Raspberry Pi down there.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean? And I've got the 8-bit DOE controller, and I'm good. You know? It's weird. It's weird how, for me, I don't take that same... The same logic that applies to movies for me doesn't apply when it comes to games for me. It just doesn't.
And you know, if you look at what was I going to say? Okay, so like last night, the Van Halen concert that I watched from '93, it was shot in 16:9 and released on a 4:3, and because of the media player I was using, because I downloaded it from YouTube. Who cares? Fuck them. It's a bootleg copy anyway. They bootlegged it to begin with, so screw them.
Right.
But on the media player that I use with a couple keys, I could stretch it, and now it's in 16:9 on my screen, and I'm just jam it out. You know, it was fun. It's good. It's great.
It's just, I don't know. I wish I shouldn't even say that. I don't understand how I can be so diehard. It's got to be this, it's got to be that for movies, but for games, I'm like,
I understand it. I mean,
the convenience is so much more important.
No, I still. Okay, so I'll give you an example. There are launch titles that I bought for the PS4. I still have the discs for, but when the digital version came on sale for super cheap, I still bought the digital version and just reinstalled it. You know.
Right.
I like both. I want the digital so I can watch it anyhow, any which way, but I gotta have the physical so that when that digital gets yoinked, I still have it.
Do you ever think that they'll do that with, like, to me, I feel like if you buy the physical copy, you should get the digital code.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why it's not a universal thing now.
Like, it's that way for movies. I mean, it literally works the exact way that you would think that it would work for the gaming industry.
Yeah.
But it's almost like they say it is, no, just buy it twice. And I'm like, I don't want to buy it twice. Like, I would love to have purchased the digital copy of Breath of the Wild just for the convenience of it. But no, it's the only physical game I own for the Switch. Because I wanted the case and I wanted the thing.
Right. So I think with games, it boils down to this. They are probably not including the codes with most games because they want to see
where the money's going.
Right. Because if you use both, they don't know. It's a harder market to analyze at that point. Like they're trying to figure out at what point can we cut this off feasibly. And I know they're going to, we said this at the beginning of the last generation, though, that this was going to be the last generation with discs, but here we are. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. The only reason that they weren't able to pull it off on this go around, there's two factors: hard drive space, accessibility of that hard drive space, and internet speed being so inconsistent around the world. We ever get to a point where there's a worldwide gigabit guaranteed internet for everybody, and hard drives are inexpensive enough and accessible enough that people can do the external drive without thinking a second thought, then we're done. But I don't see that happening in 10 years. I really don't.
Well, and it's weird. It's like, yeah, the hard drives, yes. The hard drives will get there really fast. I don't think the internet will get there in time.
But here's the problem. as you increase fidelity and complexity of games, they only get bigger. So the hard drive space relative to cost and the size of the game continues to go up and up and up and up and up. So I don't know that fight's ever going to fully go unless they hit a wall with how big they decide to make the games. I don't see that happening. So you look at a game like Destiny where the install size is so large at this point, they've gotten to a point where they're just like, well, this year when we do the big change up, we're yanking like half the game out of the game to put the new stuff in. And while we as a fan base understand why they're doing it, we're like, why can't you leave it all in? But it's not just about the space. Then there's like development of like, well, every time we update the game, we have to consider all of the shit at the same time, and it's not feasible. It's not a modular system the way that you would ideally. Programming just doesn't work that way. So I think that there is going to be a plateau of how big you can make a game and feasibly, unless it's like a self-contained thing that never gets updated. There is going to be a plateau on how big you can make your game moving forward. And when we hit that plateau, which I think will be soon, then the hard drives will have a chance to really catch up. But then you've got the internet again, where if it takes me 2 days to download a game, I'm a lot less excited about it. I'll tell you that much.
Here's an interesting thought, though. Even current gen, maybe even previous gen. I think previous generation, the PS3 and the Xbox
360.
360. Yeah, whatever. Whichever one it is. Yeah, that previous generation was the first time that updates was almost a guarantee. You buy a game, you're going to get an update. Pretty much. And it could just be bug updates or whatever. Right, now it's like every game.
Yeah.
So at that point, down the road, let's say my Nintendo Switch dies. Okay? So I go buy a new Nintendo Switch, or I find a brand new Nintendo. We're talking about years down the road. Nintendo Switch isn't on the market anymore. They've already moved on to the Switch 42.
Mm-hmm.
Just a number I made up.
Sure.
But no, they come up with this new Switch, so the original Switch isn't there anymore. I want to play Breath of the Wild. I've got the physical card. When I play it, I'm playing version 1.
Mm-hmm.
I can't play the DLC. I can't play any of that.
Right.
So at what point does it not even make sense to buy the physical disc anymore, because you're not getting the full game anyway?
It depends upon the game, honestly.
Because how many games day one updates?
Right. So like using Destiny as a recurring example, it's a live game. There is no offline version of that game.
Right.
I don't know if they'll actually patch it at the end to where you'll just be able to bebop around and do stuff. I hope so when the day comes, but there's no guarantee of that. And then the same goes for, like you said, games that are getting patched. So I think that with current games, it's less of a gamble, because most games are just, they're not going to work. So like one of my favorite games at launch of PS4 was Need for Speed Rivals. One of the coolest features of that game was that your buddy could log in on a browser or on their phone, and they could control the police going after you. Oh, that's Watch Dogs, but they could do the same thing and like put like obstacles in your path and shit and set up roadblocks and whatnot for Need for Speed. Those servers have been offline for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Can't do that anymore. The game is still there. It's still fun. It's totally playable. But
I just think, like, for example, let's say the day before Cyberpunk comes out, Armageddon, the survivors get a hold of a PS4 and a copy of Cyberpunk that was sitting in the back room of Walmart, ready to go out the next day. Can they even play it?
Yeah.
Or is it, you know what I mean, though? It's like, it's one of those things that you go, how is that going to work? Like, I would think that there would be some sort of, like, the internet is a wondrous place. somebody's going to have the patch in a way that you can patch it to your existing system without even being on the internet.
They'll figure a way for it.
You know
to
what I
happen.
mean?
When the day comes, yeah.
I just think that's interesting.
Something.
It's an interesting thought exercise.
I think when it becomes an issue, people will be able to solve that problem. Absolutely. But the thing is, like PS3, PS4, those services are still up and running, so you can still get the patches for the majority for the game. I have yet, aside from a game being completely removed, like Marvel Ultimate Alliance or something like that, the services are still available, to patch stuff. But when the day comes that they are yanked, which I think is going to be, it probably isn't going to happen in our lifetimes, unless they completely overhaul the PlayStation Network or Xbox Live, which they don't have a need to.
And you could probably argue that even the Raspberry Pi 42 version, right, will probably have,
Sure, 42.
Whatever.
Let's go with it.
Hey, whatever. Anyway, the archived version of those games from today will probably be the the versions that are already patched. The versions that are already, that's what they're going to archive anyway. Yes. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it's an interesting.
Oh, absolutely. It worries me, but we've got around crap before, but it's an easier problem to solve than, like, for example, there's technology out there with emulators for the older stuff that you can patch in the internet and play traditionally online. Couch co-op online, right? Co-op. That was too good. It was too good.
Yeah,
Jay, I hope you're watching. Co-op. But so you'd have the yeah. So, but like if it's Street Fighter 2 on the SNES, you have to make sure you're using the same file because there's like 7 versions of that damn game that came out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so all your ROMs, you've got like 7 or 8 versions of that. Because versus the digital versions that are out there, a lot of them, you can just switch between which version of the game you're playing. So there's different ways of looking at it, So if I want to play against Jay online in Street Fighter 2 using my emulator, I have to make sure he's using version 2 turbo, this, that, blah, 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 blah. Right. He's going through the same thing with the arcade that he's building, making sure we've got the right ROMs for the right boards and all this crazy shit that we're going through. Certain cabinets that I can't discuss publicly, we're like, well, we have to make sure we have this, we have to make sure we have that, so this works.
Right.
Sorry, can't tell you guys. But whether it's movie, like it'd be the same thing if you were trying to open an old timey movie theater with the old school projectors.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't realize that most movie theaters now it's just basically the film print is just a hard drive you plug into a digital projector. That's it. There's no more reels of film moving around, except to the places that are like really enthusiasts. Like there's some places out in there's like all the big cities have them. There's at least a couple in Dallas. There's a bunch in LA, a bunch in New York, a bunch in Chicago, where they actually do get a hold of the prints and they'll show them on a limited basis and stuff. But a lot of those like Midnight Madness kind of deals, they're using digital copies too, because that's all they could get to keep the cost down. So it's like if I were to, because I know someone has either had the idea and has done it, or has tried it and they've hit some kind of a wall where you have a theater and you just start amassing a collection of prints.
Oh yeah.
Like I would love to get like an old timey theater, build like an apartment over top of it, and then just get a freaking stack of prints and just be able to go into this big room that can only seat maybe 30 people because I've just made it really cozy with like big tables and video games and stuff, and watch an old school print on a theater where it was meant to be done.
Right.
But think about how old those projectors are and how hard the parts are to be, and you have to learn how to fix them. And so at what point
it's like
does the
car enthusiasts, the same thing.
But what's interesting with film is that with a good transfer on a 4K disc, supposedly you're getting the same thing,
right?
With no compression and no loss, and the added benefit of some of the fidelity that you weren't getting before. But then it goes back to the Terminator argument. We talked about the soundtrack, how I'm used to the mono mix, and all the 5.1s. Like either the sound design has been changed, or it just sounds different because they separated everything out. And it takes me out of it because I'm used to that mono mix.
Right.
What is correct? What is ideal? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't either.
Also, Eagle Ford is making an exit. Good day, sir.
In fact, it's probably time that we need to make an exit as well. Going
Godfather
3 hours.
Was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it took us 3 hours to finish the conversation about The Godfather, which technically still didn't finish it. We got as far as killing all Shia LaBeouf as Carlo. Sure, why not? No.
It's yeah.
I can see him in a lot of stuff though. Like he gets a lot of shit, but he's actually a really good actor.
Yeah, he
especially
really
with
is.
the stuff he's done lately.
He really is good.
And he's a good, humble dude.
Yeah, it's anytime that again, it's all about a little bit about redemption, right? We should give these guys another chance. It's like who do you cut off and who makes that decision?
Well, like Shia he had a rough time. So it was almost an Eddie Furlong situation.
Well,
where Eddie's done some. Well, Eddie beat his wife and shit.
Yeah,
that's different. But like Shia didn't do that. He just went a little nuts. Went nuts and yelled at some people. Basically, that's all he did, to my recollection.
Yeah, and yeah, basically was saying on the promotion of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull that it was a crap movie. That didn't make Harrison Ford or Steven Spielberg very happy.
Yeah, but he's right.
Right. But it's at what point do you think they sat back and was like, this movie didn't really turn out? But you got to play ball. You're in Hollywood, right? You got to play ball a little bit. At least wait until the movie's out before you start, dogging it. That's
fair. I'm not saying what he did was right, but his opinion was accurate. He has a right to say what he wants to say. But on the same token, if I thought that the Game Changers movie was horrible, I'm not going to say that. Now, I don't think that at all. I really don't.
You watched it, Billy?
Just kidding. Billy, I really love the movie. Headline: minor local celebrity disappears in freak spinach accident. I don't know.
Now, I get what you're saying, because it's sort of like, at what point do you allow your integrity to be compromised?
Right.
But at the same time,
it's Hollywood that happens all the time.
You got to be smart about it.
Right.
You got to do it in a way. I mean, like, for example, I would say that, why am I going blank again? My brain no worky today.
Yeah.
Finn.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What he said
could have ended his career.
Could have, if done at the wrong time.
Right.
The movie's made its money for the most part. I mean, they still sell. Well, they still sold a 4K to me, so But it's one of those things where it's like, at what point can you say, yeah, I wasn't a fan of that?
Right.
And the kind of stuff that he went through, you know what I mean? After that movie, well, not even before the movie came out. The trailer came out for The Force Awakens, and he's getting crap online for being black. And it's like, being in Star Wars wasn't always all that it was cracked up to be for him. Why am I going blank on his name? What's his name?
Yeah.
God.
Actor guy. Boyega.
John Boyega. My gosh. I just couldn't. I just went blank.
John Boyega as Mikey. Saying.
I'd love it. Are you kidding? That dude is a great actor. He's really good.
He is really good. I like him.
Yeah. In fact, I might have to talk about that at some point. Kind of like what could have been. At this point, the saga's over. I can talk about it without feeling weird about it. Because it was always hard for me to speculate on what hadn't come out yet. Because I don't like, me and expectations. I don't like to get my expectations too high. Or take myself down a road that can never be recovered because this movie came out and it's completely different.
Right.
But now that it's all over, it may be safe to dig into that a little bit. I don't know. At least for me. Because it's like, I don't know. But it is 4 o'clock.
It really is.
It is so 4 o'clock.
It is past 4 o'clock, in fact.
Yes.
Technically. Yes.
And yeah, there's all kinds of things going on. But Jim, is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to before we get out of here?
Yes.
What's that?
Everyone needs to go listen to some fucking Van Halen this weekend.
I'm totally down. In fact, you and I had just briefly discussed it yesterday. I did the same. You said, yeah, I've been jamming out to some Van Halen or whatever. And I said, yeah, I had a little jam session the other day, early listening session, whatever you want to call it. A sesh.
Yeah.
Anyway,
a sesh.
So last night I was watching a YouTube video at the time, watch it and get finished. And I pulled it up and I was like, huh. And I listened to it, to Van Halen for about 2 hours last night. Like, I got other things to do. I can't be doing this right now.
Are you a Roth guy or a Hagar guy?
That's so tough, man. Because I love both.
Yeah.
I love the swagger and the I don't give a crap David Lee Roth attitude. I love the sound and the almost workman attitude. I'm going to do the best job I can attitude that Hagar has. And it's like, it's tough.
I think that Roth with Van Halen made them larger than life, which is what they needed to be at the time. But by the time Hagar rolls around, Hagar brought them back to rock roots, made them in many ways more accessible.
Yes.
And I was watching this MTV special that was about them coming back and doing the tour with Hagar, and just kind of basically the whole thing was, here's why Sammy's awesome. And yeah, David was a bit of a dick when he left. And they made it a point to talk about why he left, how he did it, and why getting Hagar in was such a breath of fresh air. And they're like, and they really doubled down on the fact that Sammy could play guitar in the early days. He was playing guitar a lot. And because Eddie was like, ooh, I can play keyboard on stage and I don't have to worry about rhythm guitar? That's amazing. And so it really opened up their songwriting, because Sammy's an amazing songwriter in his own right. So they got to do a lot of stuff they wouldn't have had a chance to do had they continued with Roth. They just opened up the possibilities. So they got to progress a little bit without losing that Van Halen sound. And my favorite Van Halen album is For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. It just is. It just has consistently slamming tunes. My only gripe about that is that the guitar is too thin and too far back in the mix for me. But that's no big deal. I can EQ it in if I want, which I have a special EQ for that album that I just import into my player when I play it, so the guitar is a bit louder. And it's a great album. But I would argue there's not a bad Van Halen record. Even with Gary Cherone was really good. Even though I still can't figure out why Gary Cherone cut his hair for that album. I know it was the late 90s and people were doing the weird frosted thing. Gary Cherone was an extreme. He had long, curly, kinky hair, but when he was in Van Halen, he had his haircut. short.
I kind of forgot that he was even in the band.
Yeah, and he did a really good job. I watched some live stuff with him. Dude, his voice is right in the middle between Hagar and Roth. It's right in the middle, and it's a cool sound.
You know, Bucho said that a bunch of fun tracks with Hagar, but Rock is better when it's wild. So Roth is better than Hagar. I totally get that, and it almost mirrors the attitude of America in the time.
Almost mirrors the attitude of America.
Because to me, David Lee Roth is like the 80s, excess, this wild, almost free attitude, and then Hagar's more business-like, but awesome. I don't know. That's weird.
Well, like, for metal fans, they can have like the same arguments about like Osborne versus Dio in Black Sabbath, or like Chris Barnes or George Fisher in Cannibal Corpse. I think they're very, very similar arguments in all three cases. But what's interesting to me, like, you look at the 650s. But like with Cannibal Corpse, like Barnes had this shocking lyrical approach and really kind of almost created like a subgenre of lyrics and vocal style. But then the focus was too much on him, and then when he leaves and George comes in and he's a team player, the band opens up musically, and they've done for 17 years, like he's been in the band, and it's only gotten better. Same thing with Dio. I think Dio is inarguably a better vocalist than Ozzy Osbourne ever fucking was. And when you bring someone new into a project, whether it's a Van Halen or whatever, yes, I get it. Sex, fine, whatever. All right.
That's Bucho for you.
I think Bucho is just sexually frustrated. He's like, I want to fuck David Lee Roth, which is fine.
Man, Bucho is
It's Bucho.
It's good.
I like me some Bucho. I'm just giving you a hard time, pal. For the record, I don't think Dio, Barnes, or Fisher are very fuckable people. They're all pretty fugly people. Ozzy Osbourne, when he was young, probably fuckable, but probably not. I'm not sure how Sharon... I don't know why Sharon fell in love with him. I don't think she ever did. Hot take, she knew that there was a gravy train coming, and she latched onto that shit. Clamped down on it, did some kegels, and was like, I want this.
Who knows?
That's just one man's opinion. I mean, look at all the stuff that she's like stayed with him through. She's there for the money. I'm sorry. At this point. But I'm not one to judge.
I don't know why I made that face.
It's fine.
Why did I make that face?
All right, you want to know how I got these scars? Yeah. It's an interesting story. You know why I did the tongue thing in that movie? Do you know why?
Why?
Yeah, there's a technical reason for it. It was to wet the latex so it wouldn't come off. He just made it part of his speech.
That's
a true story. Yeah. You know how I got these scars? He could have really over.
Such a good performance.
Yeah.
Hey, we should get out of here and let these people go have the rest of their Saturday or Sunday, I guess, in Bucho's case.
Yeah, I should eat something.
Yeah. But guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out with us. This was so much fun.
Yes.
We didn't really talk about The Godfather that much, but hey.
We recast it like 17 times in like an hour and a half.
Right, but then we drifted off into no man's land, and it was a blast. And that's what this show was all about, really. I mean, come on.
Yes,
it's just having fun and hanging out and chatting and things.
Good.
So stay tuned. I think I'm gonna do a show Tuesday. My first gaming stream.
What game are you playing?
I think I'm gonna try because I'm super like crazy about Hyrule Warriors, the Age of Calamity coming out, but I've never played a Warriors game, so I figured why not buy the Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition and just see what I think about it and see if my pre-order is gonna be worth it because I have never played it before. So,
well,
it's a thought.
It's a good thought.
So I'm gonna try it.
Okay.
So, all right.
Okay.
Well then, guys, we'll see you next time. And thanks again, Jim. Thanks again for being on, buddy.
Anytime, man.
So much
I
fun.
love it being.
It's so much fun
yes.
having you on. The tangents are amazing. So
we're enablers. We're mutual enablers of tangents.
It's great. It's great stuff. Do you guys have a good afternoon and evening, day, whatever, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Enjoy yourself, bitch.
I'd really like to hear what you think, so please leave your comments below on what we talked about. And of course, consider hitting that subscribe button and give it a like if you enjoyed it. It really does help, and as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.